Leslie Kwan, thank you so much for doing this, bro. I appreciate you.
Bro, thank you for having me. I was like, I've been saying, man, I saw you and Wayne that first time, and just the topics that you guys were talking about and just how vulnerable you guys were being with each other. I was like, bro,
Yeah.
like, this is amazing.
Dude, Wayne's the man. Like,
Wayne is the
I think
man.
that was definitely the first episode where I felt like I was able to kind of get there because he was so willing to go there.
Yeah.
Like, he was so willing to be so vulnerable with what he was going through at the time. And I think, like, that's actually how we connect to people.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because, like, you know, it's so easy for us to put our best foot forward and be like, this is what people want me to be, or this is what's attractive to people.
Yeah.
And you put that out there, but you can't actually build a real connection that way. The real connection is like, hey, bro, I'm going through something hard right now. And then someone can meet you there.
Yeah.
Like, that's actually connection.
Finding that relatability with someone to know, and man, it's like, it's knowing that, I think we were talking a little bit earlier before we were recording, just being able to let your insecurities kind of come out in a safe environment,
Right.
so that you're able to comfortably express certain things, like certain sentiments to other people. That is like what you said, where you're able to really build connection and relationship, because now I'm understanding where, like, what your story is,
Right.
what you're going through, and maybe I also find relatability in that because, oh, maybe I just went through that,
100%.
or maybe I'm like going through that now as well, and then it's through those events and those conversations and just being just emotionally vulnerable and just emotionally naked, basically.
Yeah.
Right. And being able to say that to, not like, I mean, sometimes a stranger, or if it's like a friend, but that's also how you build that trust with friends and know, like, I can safely tell you these things, and
For sure.
I'm not going to get laughed at. I'm not going to get berated.
100%.
Right? But I'm going to be supported and given some sort of value, right? Because then at the same time too, if I'm wrong, bro, tell me I'm wrong.
100%.
Right?
100%.
Right? I strip my ego out of it, and just like, if you think I'm fucking up,
Yeah.
bro, tell me, please tell me.
100.
Right?
Like, friends should be able to have hard conversations with friends.
Absolutely.
Like I think just because when you're young, at least this was my story. Like, when I was a kid, I just wanted to be accepted by anyone. I just wanted to be a part of a group, and I wanted to be accepted. And whether it was for me or for a mask that I put out there, it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But as you get older, you kind of like, it's just not actually a thing that sustains real friendship. Like, what's the point of being around a bunch of people who are all like taking shots or like having drinks or whatever, and you're there lonely, feeling a certain way, but you have to pretend to be something else or feel something else to be accepted by these people. Like, the most lonely I've ever felt is actually being surrounded by people, man.
Oh, bro, tell me about it. Oh, tell me about it. It's like, and it's being surrounded by people that don't really understand you.
Yeah.
And I feel like getting into, my story of growing up in Calgary.
Yeah.
So I was born in Toronto. Lived there till I was about 8, and then my family moved out to Calgary, grew up here, and I've been in Vancouver the last 5 years. So growing up in Calgary, I feel like I had my community in the sense that because I did Wushu, and like I was happily there every weekend. So then my upbringing with, like, going to high school and stuff like that, I didn't really have close friends in school because I didn't feel like I fit in with them.
Right.
And it's like, like you said, you try really hard, but at some point it's like, man, I just don't. And I think I realized this later, because in that moment you never know, but you're trying so hard to be accepted. You're trying so hard to try and fit in.
Yeah.
And then you maybe do things that you shouldn't have done and you didn't actually want to do.
Yeah.
And then when you reflect back on those things, there's, okay, cool, like that's not who I want to be. And it's like, even into now, I'm 32 and I'm still learning those lessons.
100%.
And it's like, it doesn't feel like there's ever a moment where it's like, got it, because there isn't.
No.
You're just going to keep meeting people. You're going to keep having experiences. And then even, I think, like, so then growing up, I love my group of friends.
Yeah.
Right. Because there's a couple of them in particular that I'm very, very close to.
Right.
Right. Because of our ability communicate this way,
Right.
and express and be honest, and then like for them to offer me perspective,
Right.
Not in a negative way and saying like, "Yo, you dumb," da da da, whatever. But constructive things for me to actually think about and consider, and then they allow me to take that and process it however I need, and if it works for me, it works for me. And man, I respect that so much, because it's not like someone trying to like shove it down your throat.
100%.
But it's just like, well, this is kind of what I think maybe you should think about it from this angle.
Yeah.
Right. And hopefully, because the one thing that I've also been on the other side of is having that ego of like, no, it's not like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then wanting to be so like adamantly, this is my idea, like I wanted to do it this way. And then you have time to process that, you give it some thought, and it's just like, fuck, maybe they're right.
Yeah. And I love that, because, you know, that's something I'm curious about, is like how, because it's a very human thing, right? To be defensive.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, you think this? Like, let me defend my perspective, and like, and stop your perspective from like entering my mind, or like my thought process, right?
Yeah.
So how did you get to that? Were you always like that? Were you always open to perspectives, or like, what was your journey to like getting there? And sometimes it's not a conscious thing, but
it's interesting that you say that. I feel like I've always been very open to people, like offering me perspective and talking about their sides, and I try my best to empathize.
Yeah.
I think I've always done that as a kid. I think I got to a point where I was a little bit prideful in how open I was, and how a mature, quote unquote mature, I was, that I felt like I could offer people advice, thinking that like this is the gold standard kind of thing.
Yeah.
And through that, I also, and I would say that was mostly with like my Wushu students.
Right.
Eventually, when I looked back at it, and I've talked to them since then about like how we raised them, or like how I took responsibility for myself, and how I may have not really prepared them for their lives.
Wow.
And being independent, or able to really take control of their own lives and the decisions that they make. Because I felt like I got to a point where I was very comfortable in my position as one of like the leaders of that school. Right. So then I really wanted to make things easy for them. Yeah. Right. So then it's like, oh, I'm doing all these things for them in terms of like, you know, what are they training, how, like choreographing their routines and stuff like that. Just like being that coach for them, and being that person for them, but realizing that was a detriment, because I didn't allow them to take on leadership the way that it was put onto me. And so I felt like I had done a poor job of preparing them for what's to come. And so through things like that, and just kind of seeing moments where I would offer an advice and it goes south. Yeah. And I'm like, fuck. Like, like shit, what am I thinking? To the point where now it's like I think there's an understanding for me that with taking in information too, I still have those moments of battling that ego. Right. I still have those moments of like, but I really want to like do it this way. But then it's trying to really just take a step back and like, let me see if I can take this idea or this newer concept from somebody else, and how do I integrate that into what works for me? Yes. And I think that is the more important thing, because you don't want to say no to your idea and just take somebody else's. Yeah, you still need to be like true to yourself. Hell yeah. You still have to take in value of what you have to offer in your ideas. And I think what you're also going to realize as a creative is that so many people are going to try and what's the word that I want to use? Like influence or put their imprint on your creation. Yeah. You have to be able to stand up for yourself and say, and try to find a balance. Is it going to happen all the time? No, because when you get into working with producers, people that are paying you, right? Obviously, that's a whole different thing. It's a whole different thing. But if you're in moments where you're like in a creative space, everybody's on the same level, everybody's contributing the same way, the same amount. then now it's in for discussion, right? Because it's like, well, like I see, like this is what I want to see. How are we able to integrate these things all together to make a more complete product?
100%.
Right. I'm rambling, but anyways, so in terms of my own journey, I think a lot of it has been correcting myself, or luckily having people that are able to express that to me, so that I can be like, okay, I'm sorry, I fucked up. Let me see where I can make those corrections.
Yeah.
I also tend to think that like your body reacts to your emotions, or when something comes into your ear and it makes you feel a certain type of way, you have to listen to those moments. You absolutely have to
100%.
listen to those moments. And with that, you need to start recognizing that, is this my ego? Or is this like, I really don't like that idea?
Yeah.
Right.
It's like such a hard thing for people to be able to discern. Like, is this my ego? Is this my anxiety? Is this my inner voice? Like, what is that thing? Because there's always voices going on and battling for stuff.
Yeah.
You said a lot of interesting stuff there, man. Like, the first thing is like, I can relate a lot to you when you say like, you know, you just want to give people advice. And it comes from a place of love. It comes from a place of like caring and like mentorship or whatever that feeling is, right? And, you know, my mind first goes to like, this is how I kind of helped me relate to my parents too, because like whatever they were doing that was annoying me or trying to like helicopter parent me or whatever, that's just their way of showing love. Like they're just trying to love me. Like that's their way of doing it. I don't know. But like I've definitely come up with that resistance with like my homies where I'm like, bro, like, why are you doing this over and over again and coming back and telling me like how hurt you are or how disappointed you are or like how unsatisfied you are? Like you're doing this over and over and over again. And I would like try to, you know, just give them all this advice and then they would never take it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Which is totally fine. Everyone's there has their own path. And I think almost the best way that I've like come across now in my life to be able to actually kind of influence people in a positive way without shoving it down their throat, like you were saying, is like just embodying it. Yeah. Just like being what I say that you should be or what I think that you should be in the world. Yeah. And then when people see the results of that, they're like, yo, Nick, you seem happy, bro.
How did you do it?
Exactly. Like it seems like you're doing good, man. Like you're changing, or you're doing this new stuff. Like what made you like want to do that, or what made you brave enough to do that? Like, so I think all we can, like the best way we can help others is to ultimately help ourselves and like, and live the lives that we want to live. And then especially like young kids just copy. So if you're living a life, you're like, oh, I want to be like Leslie, man. Like he's awesome. Like you see him do that, you see him do this, and then they'll come and ask you, and it's coming from a place of like hunger and like they want that from you, rather than from a place of like, I didn't even fucking ask you, bro. You know,
it's funny you say that because it's like, through a lot of these situations where like you, it's like, man, just want to offer people advice and like just want to help. Because also before it's like, man, I'm so frustrated. Like why? You know what you're doing wrong, and I'm telling you, and it's like, why are you not? You know what I'm saying? And sometimes people just want to be heard, because I have also been on that side. And it's like, I don't need advice from you. I know what I'm fucking up on. I'm just like, I just want to vent, and I want you to hear me. And I want you to be there and be my friend. And that's it. And once I started realizing that, then it's just like, okay. Now it's can I offer you a piece of advice? 100%. Right? Or can I, you know, offer this perspective? And you take and do whatever you want with it. Right? I have learned, and again through my students, that I can't dictate their lives. As much as I see potential in them, as much as I see like just fucking, you know, the heavens for them kind of thing. If they don't see it for themselves, or if they can't get over that hurdle themselves, it's not gonna you can't do anything for anyone. Nor should you take on the responsibility of that. Because it's going to tear you down. 100%. It's just going to take so much energy out from you.
And like I can relate to that because there's a part of you that just wants to relieve them of that struggle. But like that's actually the thing that's going to make them stronger. You have to struggle. I'm sure adversity, like just hearing your story, I'm sure there's tons of adversity that turned you into the man that you are today, right? And like you know, especially like as a mentor or a teacher, it comes from a place of love, but ultimately to do that is almost to rob them of the opportunity to like rise above their own struggles and build their own confidence in themselves and what they're actually capable of. It's like if you're training them for a competition or something, or like say you're a weightlifter, like I'm like, if I bench that weight for you, when you go to compete, you're not gonna be able to lift that, bro. Like obviously I'm there, I don't even want to touch the bar. Like it's only like when you cannot lift it is when I help you up. Like but other than that though, like I'm letting you do all the lifting. And that's like the best thing we can do to like help people grow, is just let people go through their shit. Like you can give someone a bunch of advice and there's like, oh, like, but sometimes they have to feel the pain. They have to go through their toxic cycle until they're just eventually like, oh, like I'm here now. I'm in this really bad place. It's like, great. Like this is a great place for you to work on your shit.
This is where you climb back up.
Exactly.
This is your hero arc. This is where you become the greatest hero.
Yeah, man. Exactly.
Can you tell me, because obviously talking about like your parents, what is the relationship with your parents like right now?
My relationship with my parents is amazing, dude.
Yeah.
But we've done a lot of work on it.
Okay.
We've done a lot of work on it. Yeah, as a kid, me and my father had a really tumultuous relationship.
Okay.
I resisted my father's advice at every point. But we really worked on it. We really worked on it, man. Yeah.
What does working on it for you, what was that journey for you guys?
Yeah. So, man, I guess I got to go back super far.
I'm here for it, bro. I'm here for it.
So like working on it, a lot of it is just working on it yourself and then being able to show up differently around your parents and kind of share that energy with them. Like, you know, before the podcast, you asked me like, you know, I really appreciate you like even seeing me this way, being like, oh, my EQ is so high or whatever. I still recognize I have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
But
as do we all.
Of course. But like that journey for me was like, you know, speaking of resistance, I had all the resistance in the world. Like I said, like my parents, I love them so much and our relationship now is so strong. But at that time, as a young kid, I was a hypersensitive kid. Like I was the kid who like, if I felt any hard emotions, like I would just cry and like be like really, really sensitive. Like, and obviously my parents' kind of way of dealing with that was kind of to be like, oh no, we shouldn't be that. And ultimately it just brought me a lot of shame around my emotions. Like, so I was like, oh, I'm sad, I'm ashamed. And so I would go into like a dark room by myself every time I would be sad or every time I needed to cry or every time that I needed to feel an emotion, I would hide. And that was like, and you know, that was also encouraged. It was like, okay, if you need to cry, go into that room and cry. Oh, if you need to feel that way, okay, then you go into that room. And then once I was happy, I was allowed to join the family again. Once I was like, okay, once I like had settled my emotions, then I allowed myself and I was allowed to come back into the family. And so that was like a common thing for me for a while. Like I learned to create a mask that people liked. I was like, oh, like I can be confident and I can be happy. I can be joyful. I can be funny. And people like this about me. And so let me create this mask of who I am. But then it came to a point where it's like, I just decided and that created a lot of resentment towards my parents eventually. I was like, you guys never let me be a human. All you care about is like my report card and you guys don't even fucking care about me. You don't even ask me how I am. You just ask me why my math is at a B. Well, maybe my math's at a B because I'm going through shit emotionally in my life and shit's hard for me. And that was the battle between me and my dad for a long time. But then I just made a decision that I was going to take complete responsibility and I was like, I'm going to be the adult that I needed when I was a kid. And so what adult did I need when I was a kid? I needed the adult to say, oh, hey, Nick, it's okay to feel this. Let's actually just be comfortable in this uncomfortable space of these hard emotions and sit there with them. And it's okay to do that. Giving myself permission instead of waiting for someone else to give me permission. Yeah. And then in that, I could give that to other people. Like I could go and look at somebody else and be like, oh, this is a hard emotion. Like, let's sit with that. Oh, like, this is what you're going through. Okay, like, let's talk about it. You know, so that's like, that resistance is ultimately what helped me build that up. Because without that resistance, I would have no reason to develop my emotional intelligence, right? It's like, and then so once I was able to do that, I started coming into my family more because I was like, oh yeah, like, you just tried to love me the best way you knew how. I'm going to be the man that I need to be for myself. you were a great father in all the ways you could be, especially with the immigrant story. Like, how hard is that?
With the tools that they had at the time.
100%. So that's like in the gist of it.
Yeah. Matt, respect, brother. Respect.
Thank you, man.
Because it takes so much humility
Yeah.
and so much patience to say, I'm gonna make the change.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the one to break this generational, habit.
Yeah.
And I was gonna ask you too. I feel like, what do you feel in terms of, and again, this is never to, make less of somebody's trauma and their experiences.
Yeah.
But at the same time, how important do you feel it is for us as the first, second, third generation children growing up here, now adults, for us to take on that responsibility to break the generational trauma and those habits that existed back then, and to communicate and express, like, this is the relationship that I want to have with you guys.
Yeah.
Instead of pointing the finger and being like, you owe me this.
Right. Like from like the generation before us that they owe us.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like I'm so lucky to have a partner who also believes in breaking our generational traumas and stuff. And I think it's important. It's as important as it is to you. Like for me, the healing of the generational trauma is less about like, how am I going to interact with my kids, and more about how do I interact with my own inner child and my own self. Because like I said, your kids just emulate you, and their inner voice is ultimately your voice to them when they were growing up.
Right.
So it's like, for me, it's just like, it's so important for me because I cannot stand to be in a state of inauthenticity. Like, I cannot stand to be in a place where I'm not honoring myself. Like, it's actually so hard for me to betray myself, bro. Like, it destroys my soul.
Yeah.
So for me, just that journey is really for me. And so I'm taking the torch, however far I can take it. And then when it's time for me to end the relay race, then I pass it to the next generation. I'll be like, you take this as far as you can take it.
Absolutely.
Because I'm gonna, like, ultimately, I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. And like, trying to pretend like I have any wisdom, like, there's obviously things that I want to like pass down to the next generation, but like to act like I know what the right thing is, or like, I don't know, maybe I'm overcorrecting all the way to like, now like my kids will be too soft and not be able to deal with any adversity because they're like, no, my feelings matter. Or like, I have no idea. Like, yes. Do you have an opinion on that or thought on that at all? Or
I definitely feel like with where our community and our society is kind of pushing towards, I think it is so important to always continue to address what you're feeling inside.
Yes.
How you end up delivering that back out to the world and back out to the people that are around you, that is also another lesson that you're going to have to learn, right? Because I think that as much, I think the dangers of doing that sometimes is it's going to make it seem like you're better than other people. There's a danger of that, where or it may be just a delivery,
right?
Because I think words do matter. As confident as I am with myself, as self-aware, and really even then, it's like I'm still very, very insecure about a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I'm still working through that, and I'm still trying to really figure out who I want to be, what I want to represent, what values do I bring, right? And especially getting into film, being an actor, I don't want to be like everybody else, right? I want to make sure that anything that I say and anything that I do is a representation of who I am, and like those choices that I made are my choices and not influenced because the community is doing it, or the industry is doing it, that kind of thing, right? So I think that with coming into, like maybe like raising kids and stuff like that too, teaching them that it's okay to express when they're frustrated, but also hopefully being able to teach them that this is what's going to make you stronger.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously not like berating them or like punishing them, stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, but having them understand that you will come out of this a better person. You will come out of this a stronger person. And I also think teaching them early to make decisions for themselves.
Yes.
Setting boundaries and making sure that I feel like building confidence in yourself is always just making sure you say yes to you.
Yes.
Right? Because if somebody disagrees with you and then you say no to your idea,
Mm-hmm.
you've lost.
Right.
I think that you've lost in the sense that you said no to yourself. Because that person didn't say no to you. You said no to yourself.
Right. You agreed with them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You took away your opportunity to fight for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it could be something small, it could be something big, right? But when it gets to those points where like maybe you have to make a big decision and you shy away from it,
Yeah.
and you let somebody else do it for you, you will also lose confidence,
For sure.
right? And other people will also lose confidence in you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if we can teach kids early to communicate and express their opinions
Yeah.
and be able to communicate why, and in that listen to somebody else and what their why is,
Right.
they can come to their own conclusions. They
Mm-hmm.
can make their own decisions, right?
Yeah.
Just knowing that you'll make a decision, that decision was going to come with this outcome, and whether or not it's positive or negative,
Yeah.
doesn't matter. You just have to deal with it. What
Exactly.
comes after. Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing that, like, I don't know if this is Asian culture or just like the way that I grew up, but it was like being wrong or failing
Oh, was the worst
was
thing.
the worst thing ever.
Worst thing in the world.
like, and what you're saying is the exact opposite of that. It's
Yeah.
like make decisions and be okay with the outcome.
Yeah.
Whereas like growing up, it was always like, well, if you do this, you're gonna fail, so you better do this. And if you do this, then that might be bad, so you better do this. This is probably the most secure and stable way that you can do this, so you better go in this direction. Like, there's such a stigma to failing.
Yeah.
Like, there's that, Asian stereotype where it's like, you've brought dishonor to our family. But that's how it fucking felt, dude. Like, it felt like that.
Yeah.
Like, if I fuck up, man, like, it's not just on me. My whole family will be ashamed of me, and everybody in this community will be ashamed of my family. Like, so I think that's huge. That's a huge step towards healing,
Yeah.
like, the generational trauma that we're talking about.
I feel like, I hope if anybody were to take anything from this chat and this podcast, is really just to listen to yourself and be okay with losing.
Yeah.
I am sometimes a sore loser, but but I will also say that that's just adversity,
Yeah.
right? Because it's, and you relate it back to sports,
Right.
to athletes. How the best in the world, how often do they lose before they actually won?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? How many, as an actor, how many rejections am I going to face until I get casted for one thing, maybe even just a small role?
Exactly.
Right? And it's so much of it is I just want people to not have to give off this perfect image. Don't be perfect around me.
Yeah.
Right? And if it's like, if I ask you about something, because I've also been on the opposite side of this where somebody asks me and I'm not incredibly secure about the answer that I'm about to give.
Yeah.
So then I have to like puff it up a little bit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's such a waste of energy.
Yeah.
Right? And it gives off such a, like, what word do I want to use? Like the impression that you get off from people, because I notice it now too.
Yeah.
Right? When people aren't quite sure how you're going to react.
Right.
And they think that you're going to judge them.
Yes.
They start trying to make it pretty.
Yeah, they like justify certain things.
Yeah,
they like do all
yeah,
these different
yeah.
like dances around this thing to be like, oh yeah, but I'm in the relationship because he's actually really good for me. Even though you just said all this terrible stuff that's going on, like, and you're just lying to yourself.
You are.
Which brings me back, because like you said like, if anyone takes anything from this podcast, it's it's to listen to yourself.
Yeah.
And then, but like we said earlier, it's how do you know what is your true voice? Because we have voices of anxiety, we have voices of fear, we have like the voices of our parents that are like in our heads, and then we have this inner voice, this inner calling, or our higher selves. Like for yourself in your journey, like how have you deciphered that or wrestled with that? Like what's your process?
I think I have never, maybe I shouldn't say never. I have always done what I've wanted to do. Whether that be going to Wushu every Friday, Saturday, and not going to the high school parties and stuff like that. Not that I was invited. But the point is, I willingly chose to do that instead anyways. Yeah. I didn't need to go have that experience because I was happy doing this other thing. Yeah. And that gave me confidence. That gave me pride because everywhere I went, I knew that I had this thing. Yes. Right. And I worked so hard to be this in that. Right. So even when it came to, I had left Wushu at some point. Right. Yeah. So I trained from when I was 10 till I think I was with the school for 10, 11-ish years. Yeah. And then my dad passed away. Oh. My dad passed away, and that kind of set me on this different kind of mindset, or like, and just not knowing like where and I also had like a big injury that year. I tore my ACL. Damn. And to me, I was just like, I don't know what to do now. Like, I don't know if I'm going to bounce back from this kind of thing, whatever. And I left. But it's funny. I left and I went to go play basketball. Oh, yeah, with a bum ACL. Yeah. So I had left but also because I had given up basketball in my senior year of high school to do Wushu. Yeah. I was always like decent at it. Yeah. Right. But I never really gave myself a chance to explore what that was. Right. And so when I got hurt and I didn't make the national team in 2011. That was the year that I was supposed to make like the A team. I made the B team in 2009. 2011, if I did everything that I needed to do right, that would have been the first year I could have made it. Right. And I got hurt. After having that experience, man, I just spiraled a little bit. Yeah. And so it took me on to a different journey. And I was like, you know what, maybe because I thought my Wushu career was done at that point. Right. And I was just like, okay, well, maybe I try something else. And I had missed basketball so much. So I had spent maybe like a year with a coach, Kelvin De La Pena. He played pro in the PBA. Oh, wow. And I trained with him and a couple of my friends. And I loved it. It was so different, like being away from the Wushu space and experiencing something completely new. That when I came back, I was very different. Right. They were also very different. And so back then, as a coach, I was a bit of a hard ass. I was kind of a dick. Not kind of, I was a dick. And it was interesting because like, so when we talk about, Asian upbringings and just kind of the culture and maybe relationships that we were building at the time. Yeah. It was very much so that kind of macho energy of like things need to be done a certain way, whatever. So I kind of lived and breathed that for a little bit. After I left and I came back, I saw how happy the students were, and I'm just like, oh shit, things could be different. Yeah. But it was because I saw how they were interacting with some of the other coaches now, and I was just like, oh, okay. Yeah. And it made me want to be better for them. Because again, it's at the end of the day, it's like I have moved into a different point in my Wushu career. I did end up coming back to compete, made the team, did all that. Yeah. But what really changed was because I wanted to just connect with them. Yeah. I really wanted to build a good relationship with them. And so I had to change. And I think that when it comes to back to the topic or back to your question of like, well, like how do you fight these other voices in your head? Yeah. I just knew that that's what I wanted. Right. I think at the end of the day, yes, there are going to be a lot of voices in your head telling you maybe you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. But aren't those same voices that people in real life say to you.
It's true, dude.
Right? And so I think we all know what we shouldn't do.
Yeah.
What should I do? What do I want to do? I think that's the voice that you have to just kind of zero in on.
Yeah.
In order to really start doing things for yourself and being the most confident, comfortable version of yourself is, I want to try this thing. I'm going to go do it.
Yeah.
I want to try this thing. I'm going to go do it.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't even need to be like this grandeur, ambitious thing.
Yeah.
It's as simple as, I want to learn how to play guitar.
Right.
I want to start podcasting.
Exactly. Yeah.
I want to do videography. I want to start Muay Thai. I want to,
Yeah.
whatever that is for you. I want to do arts and crafts. Why not?
Yeah.
Right? Instead of saying, oh, like giving yourself excuses not to explore those things, just give yourself the grace.
Yes.
To go do that.
Yeah, that's huge, man. That's huge. And yeah, just relinquishing that fear of failure if you go and pursue those things, I think is big.
Yeah.
But I think that's so true, man. Like, those voices in your head are actually voices of other people that you've subconsciously agreed with to a certain extent, where you're like, oh yeah, that person did say that this was a stupid idea. Like, maybe it is a stupid idea. And then you start rolling those things around in your head. Like,
but who the fuck are they? Why does it matter? You
exactly.
know what I mean?
Like when you really recognize that nobody has anything figured out at all, and everyone's just kind of like projecting their own fears onto each other.
Oh, bro. Oh, bro.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, and at the end of the day, it's all love, probably. It's all like, they're all worried about you. Like, oh, well, what if this happens? Like, let's just do the safest and most stable thing. It comes from this place. I like to think, at least, it comes from a place of love and like kindness, or compassion. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, man. And ultimately, for myself, when I look at like the voices that are competing for your decisions in life, it's like, usually the right thing to do is a mixture of the most quiet voice, because like when somebody's right, they just say it and they don't have to justify anything. But when it's like you said, when somebody is afraid of what you're gonna think, or like isn't really confident what they're gonna say, they have all of these reasons why they think about it, and that's why you're like ruminating and like overthinking things. So it's usually the most quiet voice that's just like, hey, you should do this. This is what you want to do. In combination with the hardest thing to do. Like,
it's funny, like when you say that too, because if you've ever noticed that, like, you're in a room full of people, and you are having a discussion, and people are just going back and forth, and you just like watch some of the people that are like, their body language will kind of tell you everything. So there's certain people that will kind of shy away, and they're just like, they don't want to get involved. But then like there are other people that are very engaged, but are just quiet because they're just listening to everything.
Right.
And they're just waiting for everyone to stop talking and to be like, you guys are saying the same shit.
Yeah.
Or just to be able to offer a solution, because they're just willing to listen to both sides. Right. And I think that there's so much power in being silent. There's so much power in being silent.
Yes.
When you don't have a point to prove, because you really don't.
No.
You don't owe anybody anything. You don't have the responsibility of other people in your life. You have responsibility to you. Right. So then when somebody does come to you and they're spouting all this nonsense, talking like just mad bullshit, trying to affect you some way, I'm just gonna stay quiet.
Yeah.
You have no reason to extend anything back to this person.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so funny when they lose power, because you're just like, okay.
Yeah.
You offer them nothing back.
The power is in agreeing with them.
Oh my God, yeah, right?
You know what I mean? If you don't agree with them, that has no power over you at all.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I love that insight, man. Like, you don't have to prove your dreams to anyone. You just have to execute on them, man.
Yeah.
Just execute.
Yeah.
Like,
I was talking to my buddy. So I have an actor friend from London. His name's Yin.
Okay.
Yin Wang. Shout out to Yin. He has been such a good friend to me, and we often talk about like like, we both love J. Cole. We both love like Kobe Bryant. And one of the best quotes that I've heard, I think Kobe said this too, actually, and we talk about this all the time, is like, you have to have a certain level of delusion.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's only delusion until it's reality.
Right.
And take this with a grain of salt, because some people will take that delusion so far, but not work.
Yes.
And that's the problem. There's a lot of people here that, and maybe they don't know how to work. Maybe they don't know where to start in that sense, right?
Yeah.
But when you have big aspirations, big ambitions, you really do have to believe in yourself and believe that it's going to happen and believe that you are that.
Yes.
Right? I don't think it's fake it till you make it. It's more so you are that because you are also putting in the work.
Yeah.
You know that you're putting in the work. You're insecure because you're not putting in the work.
100%.
You can't talk about it because you're not putting in the work. Right?
100%, bro.
If you're going to talk about it, be about it.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that for a lot of people, there's the insecurity of the fear of like being laughed at.
Yeah.
Right? Because it doesn't work out. It's like, well, like, why do you care?
Yeah.
Are you putting in the work or not? If you're not, then the results will show.
Yeah.
Right? But if you are, you should have all the confidence in the world to be like, I can talk about this, and this. If you ask me a question about my industry, this, and this.
100%.
You know?
Yeah, and that's the difference. Like, your confidence comes from what you're actually doing, comes from within yourself because you're actually putting in the work, versus your confidence comes from what other people think of you. Right? Because that's something that we do a lot, and this is a recent realization that I had, is like, we wait for the external recognition from other people or our industry or our followers on Instagram or our YouTube subscribers or whatever to be confident in ourselves.
Yeah.
But you have to believe in you before anyone believes in you. You have to actually know that you're that already inside, and you're doing the work and the proper like things to actually be that person.
Yeah.
Even though the world hasn't recognized that yet. The world hasn't seen that yet, or hasn't agreed or caught on to it yet. You know what I mean?
They will.
They will. And it doesn't even matter, man. Like, I think maybe it's not going to be like millions of people, but everybody has their people.
Yeah.
Everybody has their audience. Everybody has their tribe or community. And the only way you can find that is by being you. Instead of being like, hey, that community is cool. Let me try to be a part of that. So what do I have to be a part of that? Like, that's the opposite. You're just like, let me be me. Yeah. And I will attract the people
that you meet. Yeah,
exactly. And that's what this podcast has done, man.
Yeah.
I've been able to meet you today because you're seeing me be myself on a camera, and you're like, hey, I fuck with this.
I fuck with it heavy, bro.
Thank you, man.
And again, thank you for having me, because it's like, how do I say it? It's rare. It is very rare that you find people that just have a very, very similar, not same, I don't want to say same, because it's never the same,
right?
But a very similar way of thinking and a way of approaching things, right? Even I always find it so funny that like in an industry like film, you still have people that are not very ambitious, that are very like copacetic and like very comfortable,
right? Just
doing what they're doing, and like that boggles my mind sometimes, because I'm just like, we're making movies. Like, do you not get that we're making movies or like a TV show? And it's like, this is really fucking cool.
Yeah.
I get that, it's different though, because it is an industry where you do have to make money. So there's a lot more things that go into that. But, yeah, man, it's crazy when you can vibe with somebody because that you haven't even met yet.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And you just kind of know that energy wise, it's like, there's a demeanor about people that really just believe it.
Yeah.
And are living that, or trying to live that, and really trying to, be about it.
Yeah.
Right.
100%, man. And I would extend the exact same feeling towards you of like, you're really about it, man. Like, you're coming on here and we're talking about all these things, and like, you're praising me for like my EQ or whatever, but I'm wondering about you. Like, what was your journey like towards this, or was it just something that always came easily to you? Like you said, you always did what you wanted, but
this was it. like, you know, leaving Wushu and coming back and seeing how happy my students were and like just the interactions that I could have with them. And also, I would even go as far, like my last year and a half of film work was fantastic. Mix of stunts and acting. And I'm going to shout out, you know, two other of my friends, Kendo, Megan Hui. I am so thankful that I was able to work with them back to back on shows.
Is that Kung Fu?
Kung Fu was one of them.
Okay, yeah.
And then the live action Avatar.
Yeah, sweet, dude.
Yeah, so I did
That's
work
so
on
awesome.
that
That's crazy.
as stunts, and it was so fun. I learned so much, and but the one thing that I'm so thankful for is those two people, because they showed me that you could be yourself, that it's safe for you to speak your mind and say your opinions, and still be successful in this industry. Because there is that fear that if you don't maybe go with what other people are saying, or what the majority is saying at times, that you're going to get left behind. But what I found with them that I really admire and respect is that they're just so true to themselves. Yeah. If they have an opinion, they're going to say it. And it also just speaks to what their preparation is, and how much they actually know, and their knowledge base, right? And how much, and that's where I feel like the putting in the work, putting in the time into whatever your craft is, whatever your particular craft is, you will have so much to say about it, right? You will have, and it's going to be so, like, how do I want to say it? It's going to be said in such a way that is so refined that it makes sense. Yeah. Right. There's all the confidence in the world. You don't have to justify for, again, like talking back, there's no justification. Yeah. Right. But I've had those moments where, you know, like I've been on the wrong side of supporting them. Right. And it made me feel terrible. Right. So then what am I going to do at this point? Right? Do I change, or do I continue to go down this path, and not speak up and not try to support people that I believe are right? Yeah. You know, and that, like, all this character building of me making the wrong choice, making the wrong decision with my friends and people that I really wanted to be close with, because I really was close with them, and it's like it was going well, and then, you know, we're caught in this situation where I didn't back them. Nobody backed them, unfortunately. And for me, I was just like, fuck, like, why did I do that? Right. And you can't give reason for, like, I'm very thankful that they have, like, since forgiven me, and we're like very close, but life is about making choices. That's it. You make choices, you live with the consequences. Yeah. Right. If those consequences make you feel a certain type of way, you need to address it. 100%. You have to absolutely address it, because if you ignore it and you continue doing the same thing, the same thing's going to keep happening. It's going to build up to worse and worse situations for you, man. Absolutely. So I love that, and I admire your ability to tune into your own emotions in that point and have humility and be like, I'm wrong. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, people are afraid to admit that they're wrong, because again, maybe you were growing up and it was not safe for you to be wrong. Yeah. If you were wrong, there was like a punishment or something, right? But that's not the case when you're an adult anymore. Chronic people pleaser, bro. Like, it's for a long time, it was just like, oh, I just want to make sure everyone's happy, but it's like, it doesn't work like that. No, because when you avoid conflict with other people, then you have internal conflict with yourself. Totally. And what is the harder thing to deal with? For me, it's harder for me to be at odds with myself than it is to be at odds with anyone 100%. Else. You know? 100%. Yeah. How is that for you, like, in terms of, like, your relationship with your partner as well? Like, how long have you guys been together? Oh, man, we've been together for, I think, nearly 2 years now, but I've known her since I was, like, 17, 18. Oh, man, crazy. Yeah. How old are you? I'm 31, turning 32 this year. Okay, we're the same age. Yeah, we're the same age. That's awesome, man. Congrats, though. 2 years. Thank you, man. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. How has that relationship been for you guys in terms of, so within these last 2 years, do you feel like you've been this kind of high EQ, understanding person within these last 2 years, and that's really helped shaped the relationship that you're in?
I would say so, man.
Yeah.
Like the biggest thing I think that is difficult for relationships is like we think that relationships are supposed to be happy all the time.
Yeah.
If we're not happy all the time, then this is a bad relationship. But actually, I think the most healthy relationships survive because you are willing to have uncomfortable conversations and go through uncomfortable feelings and emotions with one another.
Yeah.
So has there been challenges in our relationship? 100%. Does having a high EQ or whatever make the relationship easier? I don't know about that, because maybe it's easier to just avoid all your things and be like, oh, well, we're just here to make each other happy and go
Like
on
ignorance
trips
is
and
bliss,
go
yeah.
eat dinner.
Yeah.
And then whenever we have a fight, then we'll just fight and then we'll get over it because we're just like miss each other. But we get into the nitty gritty stuff. And like, I respect her enough to be able to tell her like hard things, because I'm like, I think you're strong and I think you're very capable and I think that you can handle this. Like we can handle this. Our relationship is strong enough that we can have this conversation. And even if it's hard, even if there's tears, even if there's difficult emotions, we will get through it. And just like you said, every time you go through the challenges, you become stronger. And it's because we've had like the first year of our relationship, bro, was hard.
Really?
It was hard, dude. Cause like, I don't know, I guess you come in with a lot of expectations, because like she was my best friend for a long time. Like we were just friends for.
That's really cute though.
Yeah. Thanks,
really
man.
Cute.
Thanks. And then, yeah, the reason why I never got with her was just because like I've had such terrible experiences with relationships, man.
Sorry to hear that.
No, it's not. It's actually great.
Yeah.
It's like a good thing.
Character development.
Exactly. But I've had some really hard relationships in my life, and like they've always ended pretty bad. So like when I met her, I was like, my thought was like, friendships last and relationships don't. So like if you're my friend, you're gonna be here for a long time, and if I date you, it's gonna end bad. So let me like protect our relationship by being friends. And we had this dynamic for a long time, and we both kind of felt that way. But
Yeah.
But-
What was the game changer? What was the deciding factor of like, okay, maybe we should give this a try?
yeah, because like the thing was, I realized that whole decision process was based on fear. It was a what if it doesn't work out?
Right.
What if our friendship is ruined forever? What if
Right.
this? It wasn't based on like, what if this is the best thing that could ever happen to you? You know?
Yeah.
And I actually had this conversation with my brother, because I was just like, and we actually had, and another part of it was because we had a huge falling out as friends. I was like in this really toxic relationship, and she was there for me a lot through it. And then, we broke up, and then I was getting really close to her again. But then I ended up getting back with my toxic ex. And that really frustrated her, right? For a lot of reasons. I think even subconsciously, like, she had feelings for me too. So she was like, what the fuck? You're choosing this person again?
Yeah.
Like,
Why did you go back?
because I didn't love myself, bro. I didn't love myself. Like, I think a lot of my life, I had to perform to be loved.
Right.
Like, you get love when you get straight A's. You get love when you win a trophy. You get love whenever. Fill in the blank, right?
Yeah.
And then I was with this girl who was like that too. She was like, I love you when you fill in the blank. And so, like, that's a trauma bond. Like, that was me trying to right the wrongs of the past. It's like, if I can make this person love me, if I can make this person accept me, then it's almost like I'm righting all the wrongs of the past where these people didn't love me because I wasn't good enough. Right. But if I can just be good enough, then this person will love me. I internalized everything. Like, everything was my fault. It was like, oh, she got upset because I wasn't this enough. Oh, she walked out on me because I wasn't whatever enough. Everything was my fault, which has taken me a long way, but it also has its dark side. But yeah, in doing that, like, eventually, the craziest thing that got me to break up with her, bro, was like, I did 5 grams of mushrooms. I did 5 grams of mushrooms,
Yeah.
man, and like I pretty much experienced ego death. I like died. I was like in like like I had no ego. I was part of everything.
Yeah.
Like I was literally like I had the knowing that I'm a soul in a body, and like I wasn't even in my body anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then so once I came back to my body, I was just like, wow, like life is so amazing. This chance that I have to live this life is such an incredible blessing. And like, what do I want to do with my life? Do I want to keep having to prove my worth to this person over and over and over again?
Yeah.
Because at that point, you're in this toxic cycle. It's addictive. It is so hard to get out of a toxic relationship, bro. And so that was the final click where I was like, this is your one and only life. Get out. Like, this isn't serving you. This isn't love. This is a weird trauma cycle.
Yeah.
And so you have to get out.
Yeah.
And then when I did, you know, my current partner, who was my friend at the time, was no longer there. She was frustrated with me and my choices and the way that I've been moving. And she kind of lost faith in me as a person. Yeah. Which I understood at the time.
That's fair.
So I was just kind of like... So then I also had to live a point of my life without her in it. Like I was like, she was my friend for so long. And then I had this year where she wasn't there. And so I could viscerally feel and know this is life without her in my life, you know? And so she actually, in that time, she moved to Victoria.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. This is a long story.
Damn.
But she moved to Victoria, and so she came back to visit once sometime, and then I just hit her up. Like, before she moved to Victoria, I actually hit her up, and I was just like, vulnerable. I was like, hey, I really regret how everything panned out between us. Yeah. I hope, you know, like, I have so much love for you, and I wish you the best in your adventures in Victoria. I know you're going to kill it. Yeah, it's going to be great. And then she hit me back. And so we hashed it up. She moved away. She comes back to visit for the summer. And then I see her and I'm like, fuck, I have feelings for this girl. Like, if I'm really honest with myself, like, if I'm really honest with myself, at the time I didn't know she was the one. At this point, like, I have strong conviction that she is. But at that point I was just kind of like, I'm attracted to this person. I don't want to be with this person. And if I say that I don't, and she's just my friend, I'm lying to myself. Like, point blank.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So then, but I was still struggling with it, right? Because there's still the fears. There's still the voices of like, you're going to ruin your friendship, blah, blah, blah. So I have this conversation with my brother and I tell him about it. And he's married with kids at this point. And I was just like, yeah, I'm scared to lose her as my friend, blah, blah, blah. And he's just like, you know, you're going to lose her as your friend anyway. Like, she's going to get married and you think you guys are going to hang out and go for a beer.
Ooh. Oh, that's tough, bro.
Yeah. He's like, you think you're still going to go for a beer when she has a kid? You guys think you're still going to have these deep talks and whatever? Like,
things are going to change.
You're going to lose her anyway, dude. Yeah. And I already knew what it was like to be without her. Yeah. So I was like, no, I don't want that. So literally, it was my 30th birthday. I married her on my 30th birthday. It was in summer, so... I just point blank asked her, I was like, you know, we've been friends for so long. Like, has there ever been a point where you thought about us ever getting together? Yeah. And then she was like, yeah, of course. And then that brought us into a whirlwind of working and healing together. And that's the difference between like a trauma bond where to keep that relationship together, you have to stay in your toxic cycle. You have to betray yourself. Right. You have to do whatever you do that's bad for you to keep that relationship together. Right. For us, like, as we heal, it doesn't compromise our relationship. It only brings us closer. So like, us together as a team, like, to defeat our own personal cycles and to like take on the next generation's trauma, I'm like, fuck, I don't know how I got so lucky, bro. It's honestly crazy, dude. Yeah.
Maybe that's, man, like, life is so interesting. I feel like there's so much serendipity, and like when things do come across and they're that not easy. Yeah. Because obviously you guys have had to put in a lot of work to be where you are, but for it to come the way that it has, and for you to both recognize like how nurturing you need to be towards each other. I mean, I think that's just like, you were ready for it.
Bro, I don't even know if you're ever ready, dude. Yeah. That's the thing. Like, you're ready when you decide that you are. Yeah. And we've had like so many hard things, and she's really invited me to grow. Because like similar to your journey, I'm like really hard on myself. So then I'm hard on other people. Like there was a point in our relationship where I was just like, this is your pattern, and you're going through this pattern, and you keep doing this. Like, fix it. You know what I mean? And it became this thing of like, well, if we're gonna be together, we're both gotta heal and shit. And then it came to the point where, you know, she taught me that, you know, our love is best when it is accepting of all aspects of our humanity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's okay for you to struggle with this.
Yeah.
How can I love you through that?
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
instead of like being like, well, healthy relationships look like this.
So we need to
be
emulate
like
that.
exactly,
Yeah.
right? It's just like, oh, our relationship's our relationship, and how can we like love that and appreciate that and leave
so
room
great.
for improvement at the same time, because it's not like this or that, it's
Yeah.
this and that, you know?
Man, what you just said, our relationship is our relationship.
Yeah.
Bro, like, it's the same way, like, you have to take that into your personal life too, and just like, my life is my life.
Yeah.
And you can't compare to anybody else and what they have and what they do.
No.
Because you guys aren't those people.
Yeah.
You're not them.
Exactly.
Like that other couple or whatever. Like,
And it's so easy to compare.
it's so easy to compare,
Yeah.
right? But it's you also have so much to offer each other, right? The same way you individually as a creative, you have so much to offer this industry, and you have to offer the world.
Yeah. Thank
right?
you.
With this podcast and like the things that you talk about. This is, man, there's so much, like, I admire you guys so much for being able to do that, because I had just gotten out of a 9-year long relationship.
Wow, bro.
And I
How recently was that?
2.5 months ago.
Wow, that's super recent.
And bro, I did not like who I was then. I really didn't.
Like in those 9 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
I lost myself a little bit, and I was like, and man, I gotta say this though, she was by all means probably one of like the best partners I could ever have. And it's such a shame that it didn't work out, and I say that like, man, I really wasn't happy with who I was then, because eventually when we talked about him, like when we were breaking up, we got to the end of that relationship, and the question of like, are you happy?
Right.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
Was she happy? No. Did she feel loved? She didn't. I also at that point didn't feel loved either, but it was like hearing that, that shit hurt.
Yeah.
Because I never thought that I would have somebody make somebody feel that way. I never thought that because of what I did or didn't do, somebody would feel that hurt. And so I struggled for a little bit with that, and I mean I still do, because it's like, how do I want to say it? There were more good times than there were bad in this relationship. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But I spent a lot of time saying no to myself. And in the sense that where like, and this is where I really admire you two, like 2 years into your relationship, you're so expressive and you're able to communicate. And what you said about, I believe that you can take it.
Yeah.
And I believe that you're strong enough to overcome what it is that I have to potentially say to you.
Right.
I realized that I didn't give her that benefit of the doubt. All I was focused on was the fact that I felt bad if she cried.
Right.
That was such a big issue for me, right? Because I can't blame her for crying when like things come up. And so what ended up happening is I never really had things to say about her.
Right.
And whenever she had issues, she would come to me, and I'm always very thankful that she did, because it's like, okay, like, then let me try to do better.
Right.
But in that, I started putting all of the responsibility on myself.
Exactly. You started ignoring your own needs and just
blaming me and saying that I'm the issue, I'm the one that needs to make it work.
Yeah.
Right. And then eventually when I guess I kind of knew that, like, we got very comfortable with each other, it sucks because we always talked about how so many people get stuck in like comfortable relationships, and
Yeah.
because we always thought that we were still talking and we were still trying to make things work and communicating with each other.
Right.
But I wasn't. Like we were talking about what she wanted me to maybe try differently, or like how she wanted to be loved more. But I never reciprocated with like what that would mean for me.
Yeah. And that was just because it was hard for you to see her like.
I just didn't react to it.
Yeah.
I just didn't. I felt terrible every time, knowing that I would make somebody feel that way and make somebody like let that happen to someone, killed me.
Yeah.
Like that really hurt me, and that's why like I just never ended up saying anything. But hearing, and this is what's great, it's like hearing you say that about your girlfriend, and just the love that you have for her and the confidence that you have in her as a person is what you need.
Yeah.
The trust, right? And again, it's like when you really, really do love that person, it's like I trust that you're gonna overcome this the same way that you should trust that I can overcome whatever you bring to me.
Yeah.
So like, man, I admire you guys and I respect you guys so much for being able to do that.
Man, I appreciate that, bro. I appreciate it. Like, yeah. And thank you for sharing your journey and your relationship, man. Like it's powerful. It's powerful, man. Like to have that realization. Like, yeah, it's crazy. Like, people say people pleasing as a term. For me, I just see it as self-betrayal.
Yeah.
Like, cause
it really is.
Yeah, cause it's like, yeah, you need to be able to express like what you need or what you want or what's not working out for you in a relationship, and having that, prioritizing someone else's feelings over the things that you need to be happy and fulfilled in a relationship, like, is hard. And I guess you've had the realization now that it doesn't serve either party.
Yeah.
And this is something that I realized in my last toxic relationship, was like, self-sacrifice is not a measurement of love.
Yes.
How much you're willing to sacrifice yourself does not make you love someone more.
Does the opposite.
Yeah.
It takes you out of the relationship so much faster. Yeah.
So like, coming out of that relationship now, it's fresh. 2 months, like
2.5 months.
Like, how are you feeling about it now? Like for me, I think that relationships, especially 9 years, like must take so long to kind of feel like you have closure on it, or like, what's your viewpoint on it?
We ended up talking multiple times since the break, because again, it was a very amicable breakup.
Yeah.
We knew why, and we, even like that first week, like when we first talked about it, we both had to fight the urge to get back together.
Oh yeah.
Because it would have been so easy to.
Of course.
Comfortable. But we have since talked more about it, and she was really able to be honest and transparent about her being upset with me and being angry for like whatever her reasons were.
Right.
And I was finally able to reciprocate that. So we did have closure, and I still love her in the sense that she affected me a lot.
Yeah.
She changed me a lot, I would say. Like she made me a better person in many, many, many ways. And so I will always love and respect her. I will always want what's best for her, whatever that means for her.
Yeah.
Right. But it's definitely like, it's just lonely.
Yeah.
I would say. But in terms of having closure, I understand now like what I can't do to myself.
Right.
In a subsequent relationship, because I know that, and I think that into like now, like what I'm potentially looking for, and like, I think all I want to be sure is that I'm 100% behind the decisions and the choices that I make with a partner that I decide to be with, right? Or if I'm, not ready for that at all, and like even leaning into like, oh, what do I want in the future? Like, do I want to get married? Do I want kids?
Right.
Like, there's a lot more in that where I'm asking myself different questions of like, do I need that? Do I not? Whatever,
Yeah.
And I think I can say that I am happier because I am now able to fully commit to exploring the things that I want to explore in like my career and making sure that I'm doing things for myself, and
Right.
I don't feel obligated to devote time to someone.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah.
I love it, man. Like, because that's the journey.
Yeah.
The journey was like self-betrayal and self-sacrifice, like from a place of compassion and love. And then now you can feed that into yourself.
Yeah.
And actually, man, just even the way I'm hearing you speak about her and the things you're taking from the relationship, I can tell you're a solid dude, bro. I can tell that like you're actually going to grow so much from this experience.
Thank you.
And I do believe that, you know, God doesn't make any mistakes. And so you're like, nothing that has transpired in your life, those 9 years, not wasted at all.
Absolutely.
Completely like towards your path and built you into the person that you are today. And like I said, man, the person standing before me right now, a vulnerable, strong person who has a good heart, man. Like,
thank you.
I think one of the worst things, or not the worst things, but like kind of an indicator of someone's character is like how they speak about people that they were once with. And you know, you have nothing but great things to say about this person. So,
Yeah.
man, you know, it can be lonely for sure. But yeah, man, I got tons of faith in you on your journey for sure, man.
Thank you, man.
Honestly.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I think the one thing that I'm like really trying to work on is like, because I'm lonely, how do I overcome that? How do I overcome this feeling of like, just not even, I don't even know if it's like feeling like I need someone.
Yeah.
But just knowing that like this is a little bit uncomfortable, and sometimes I get sad.
Of course.
And it is what it is.
Yeah.
But to hopefully, you know, take that energy and make sure that maybe seeing it as like, well, I have a lot of time now.
Yeah.
If I have that time, where am I displacing that time? Where am I putting it back into?
Exactly.
Because again, it does have to go back to me. And I'm actually like me going back to the gym has been phenomenal.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Because that is at least the one thing that I think throughout the weeks or throughout my weeks is the most consistent thing that I do.
Yes.
And because that's for me. And now it's trying to, you know, ignore all of the other little voices of like why I shouldn't go back to doing this and this. No, I really should just do it because I want to do that thing. So let me go do that thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, man. That's the beauty of having like it can feel like there's a hole that needs to be filled.
Yeah.
But actually, there's just empty space for new things to come into your life, man. And like, there's just so many more rooms for new blessings and new gifts and new experiences. And that's a really like magical place to be in if you can embrace it and you can like look at the positive side of what this is affording you rather than all the things that you may be missing. But that's another thing that I can relate to a lot, and I don't think is spoken about enough, is that, and maybe this is my experience and my perspective, that it's lonelier to be a man. Like, being a man, bro, is fucking lonely, bro.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, when you're in a relationship and you have a woman, they're usually more in tune with their feelings and they can be more intimate with you emotionally. And you can have conversations like that are deeper and more intimate than with the typical group of dudes. Right? Like, at least that's my experience. Like,
totally, yeah.
Like, I can't, like, it's hard for me, like, my guy friends to like relate to me because they haven't explored that part of themselves, so they can't offer that to me. They can't be like, and there's nothing against them, but it's just like they haven't done that work. So it's hard for them. They get uncomfortable around like, oh, Nick's sad shit. Like,
what do I do?
Let's go grab a beer, man. You want to go to the strip club? Or you wanna,
It's
like, let's just,
that's not what I need, bro.
Exactly, you know. And then on the woman's side, like, I don't know. For me, it's just like, someone's always gonna care about them.
Yeah.
You know, someone's always gonna be like, oh, hi. Like, whether that's their girlfriends or some fucking other guy or whatever. It's like they care about your feelings. Yeah. It's easier for them to express that. So So
there's so much. Yeah. There's so much rooted in our culture around men and like what that like. Oh, it's like, it's not masculine to talk and express and cry and like all these things, but it's like why does it have to be one or the other? Yeah. You know what I mean? And this is where I mean, like, I feel like when it comes to talking about teaching kids, you teach them what it means to be expressive and to speak their mind and voice their frustrations and talk out their feelings and their emotions. But then you can also teach them what it means to be strong and like this is a very strong thing to do, and now you can go back to be confident about yourself.
Yeah.
And the confidence, that's what translates to masculinity.
Right.
Right? Being masculine is being confident in your skin and being able to take control over situations, right? And it's like, I think that there's so many, in that regard of being masculine, so many people want to fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Right? Because they just want to put out that alpha energy.
Yeah.
And it's just like, if you don't have that charisma, it's not that you will never have it, but you haven't figured out yourself. You're not confident in who you are, so that people aren't gonna listen to you.
Yeah.
They're gonna look at you like you're full of shit.
Because you think you're full of shit
Exactly.
deep down.
That energy is there, and it's so hard to help people understand that. And because they'll continue to just justify why they say what they do, why they say what they say, what they do, what they do.
Yeah.
And it's like, you just, just
no,
work,
totally, 100%. Like even for me, the way that because there's so much talk about masculinity these days. Like I think even like the Andrew Tate movement has kind of like, and like I'm gonna say like there's some stuff that Andrew Tate says, and I'm like, that's the truth. He's talking some real shit, right?
I agree.
But like a lot of it is like you said, it's fake it till you make it stuff. It's like, I want to project alpha energy into the world. For me, what masculinity is service. How do I serve the people around me? And it's like, so to be able to be in service, I need to be present with what people need.
Right.
I can't ignore my emotions, and I can't do that because I have to be present with people, and I can't run away from uncomfortable feelings, situations, or emotions. I can be present in any situation.
Yeah.
And then also the ability to serve means that you have to be capable. You have to be strong.
Yeah.
Like you can't serve anyone if you do nothing for yourself to improve yourself, or do like if you can't even take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of others?
100%.
So like this whole thing of like, this is how you be masculine is bullshit. It's all about how do you be of service. It's not about how do you have the fucking nicest Bugatti or whatever. It's like literally like, who are you in your community, and who do you serve in your community? What do you bring to your community? And when you focus on that, then you'll be the alpha or whatever. Like not all the other shit of like all what the diluted weird masculine movement right now, which I think is kind of healthy to a certain extent, but it's mixed up.
There's always extremes. There will always be extremes, and it's like you have to go to extremes before you can like kind of meet in the middle, and like and I totally agree, man. I think with this movement with masculinity, I mean, Andrew Tate just happens to be the voice of people that are very insecure about themselves, and they need that voice to start, at least, which is great. I think, like you said, like there are certain things that he said where I'm like, yeah, that tracks. But is there also a lot of things that he says that I'm just like, oh, that's
100%.
No. And I think this is also a lesson for a lot of people in masculinity, is this man should not be your god.
No.
This man should not be who you model yourself after.
No.
You have to take what he says and like, I rate that. I get that, right? Or that I don't fuck with at all, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like the lesson that people need to learn, or like the good thing about someone like an Andrew Tate, is that this is an opportunity for most people, most men, to make claim and take control of their life and their opinions and what it is that they actually believe in and value.
100%.
And being honest about those things and fully admitting, if they, you know, maybe they were influenced because they didn't think about that thing before, and they're like, okay, cool, that makes sense. I can go with that. Or, no, that was really fucked up.
Yeah.
I don't fuck with that at all.
Totally.
You know, and that's where you start building confidence, is because you are now making choices for yourself. You're making opinions for yourself. I think with social media, there's so much noise. There's always going to be somebody with an opinion on something. There's always going to be somebody who believes one thing or another. You also have to believe one thing or another, though.
Right.
Right? Because if you continue to just go with, like, what the mainstream influencers are saying and, like, how they think about this thing, it's like, well, so-and-so said this, so I'm like this. Okay, well, you're just going to continue following that opinion, and once their opinion changes, you're going to follow that. Yeah. Where do you draw the line for yourself of, like, this is what I believe in?
100%.
This is what I value as a human being, and these are the principles and values that I stand by. Right? And I think a lot of people sometimes are just scared to be wrong. Like, again, fear of failure. Right. I don't want to be seen in a light that isn't perfect.
100%.
But there is no perfect.
Yeah.
Right? But you have to make a choice. You have to make a choice and be happy with that choice, and whatever consequences come from that, it is what it is.
It's really dangerous to just absorb ideologies and be like, I accept everything about this without questioning it. Yes. Like, I actually think that's the whole process of our lives. Like, as kids, we just learn and digest and receive a bunch of information from our parents, from society, from our teachers, from our friends. And that's the part of life. Like, you actually can't avoid that. You absorb all these things. But there comes a point in your life where you have to question. Are all of these things that I've agreed with and accepted serving me? Or do I even believe in these things? Or are they the right thing? Otherwise, you're actually just programmed. Yeah. You're going through life as a programmed, like, robot. Whereas, like, because there's a certain point where you have to exercise that curiosity about yourself. Yeah. And that's why I love your journey so much, man, because there's so much questioning of yourself in it.
Thank you.
Like, you're literally like, oh yeah, this point happened, and then, like, I did this to my friend, and so then I had to question myself. Oh, like, my students were in this way, and I actually reflected on that, and then I had to question myself. Like, that is why the result of who you are is who you are, because you are willing to have the humility to question yourself.
Trying, man.
Yeah,
trying real hard.
we're all just trying, you know.
Yeah,
that's all we can do. Like, no one's perfect. Like, like I always say that, you know, everyone says, like, growth is not linear, which is true. But I also think growth is cyclical. Yep. Like, you're actually always going to be challenged with the same thing again. Yeah. Like, I'm sure in the next relationship you get into, it's gonna be just as hard for you to see her cry. Yeah.
So then, am I going to be able to break that cycle?
Exactly.
And start a new habit? Yeah.
It's just like working out, man.
I like that.
You work out back, push, pull legs. And then it's going to be push again. And then it's going to be pull again. And then it's going to be legs again. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to have to exercise that forever. The work is never done. Yeah. You know, and it never gets easier. You just get stronger, you know? Yeah.
And you know what? It's funny that you say that, because even in my, like, own friendships, there's a lot of that, like, people pleasing and not, like, addressing sometimes how things maybe make me feel. Yeah. But recently I did have it's just like an incident, and I don't know if I want to call him a friend or not. it's because at this point I don't really consider him a friend, because of the way that I was treated. So last year, and I have this tendency, again, like, as a people pleaser, to, like, I want to help people. Yeah. Right. So then if somebody asks me for something, let me see if I can make that work, and I do my best to make that work. Right. So I said yes to a lot of things that I didn't maybe want to do last year. Yeah. So one of those things was to try and help my friend build a stunt reel, just like an action reel for him as an actor. And initially last year I was like, but I was very busy with stunts. So at the time I was just like, when I have free time, let's get around to this. Yeah. Right. I'm like all for it, kind of thing. Once I had time off and, like, break, and I had time to myself again, and then after my breakup, again, all of these things just culminating and teaching me more things about myself. Now I'm just like, it came up again, and I didn't want to do it. So I apologized, because I also hate when I say that I'm going to do something and I don't follow through with it. So I apologize for that. I was like, dude, like, I will continue to apologize, and like, I don't know if I can make that up, but as of right now, I just don't have the capacity to.
Yeah.
Right. I also, like, I went out of my way and said that. I was like, hey, like, I kind of hinted it, and maybe I should have just been more direct.
Right.
But I hinted it, and I was like, I noticed that I've just been like overextending myself to a lot of people, and I just don't want to do that right now.
Yeah.
And and then he said, so are you gonna help me or not? And I was just like, okay. And that's where I finally, and again, it's like I want to give people the benefit of the doubt for the most part.
Yeah.
Right. So I gave him some grace, and I explained to him again. I apologized again, and I gave him some grace in the sense that, like, I don't want this to needlessly turn into anything dumb or like stupid, because it's not, like, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Right. It's not a big deal. Right. Mm-hmm. So then I was just like, okay, well, like, this is just the things that I didn't like the way that you asked, even after I like brought this up.
Yeah.
And then he apologized that he apologized if it came across that way, and I was like, okay, cool, I accept your apology, and then, but then he proceeded to kind of gaslight me and like not address what I had brought up and like why I thought it was inappropriate for him to ask that way,
right?
And just put it back on me. There was at a point where I actually asked like 3 of my friends, like, this is during COVID. I had met these guys and didn't know them that well. So what I did was I asked them, all 3 of them, how would you like me to be your friend? What kind of friend do you want me to be for you?
Yeah.
So they all gave me their piece and was like, oh, like these whatever things, right? Only one of them reciprocated that question to me. And so that alone, I was already kind of like, okay, so then maybe these 2 in particular are not like gonna be my closest friends, and I was kind of cool with that.
Right.
But then, you know, time kind of went on, and the cycle was I would be asked for things, and that's the only time I'm ever contacted.
Yeah.
Right. Was whenever this particular person needed something. And so I already built in my head, I was like, I know you're not going to be like a close friend of mine. That's cool, whatever, right? Yeah. And so to the point where it's like, even when he asked me to hang out, but like he asked me to hang out the day of or something like that. Yeah. And like, bro, I have plans. Like, you think I'm sitting here waiting, like doing nothing? Like, yeah. So eventually, like, again, I still gave him the benefit of the doubt, but after he, like, kind of gaslit me and just threw in nonsense that had nothing to do with what we were talking about, I was just like, no, I'm done. Like, this is it.
Dude, that's like so important to be able to have that realization and act on that, you know? Like, and I think it's just, again, it always comes from this place of compassion for other people. But like, yeah, that's a great question to ask yourself. Like, are these people that I'm extending myself for
worth it?
Yeah. Would they do that for me? You know, especially like in a people pleaser mindset. Yeah. It's almost based on like, okay, what's going to create the least conflict? Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like, I want to please this person probably because they're going to be upset if I don't. And that's why I want to please them, because if I don't, there will be conflict. Yeah. And then you're going to neglect all the people who are actually there and understand you and give you grace, because there's not going to be conflict if you disappoint them. So you're happy disappointing those people, but when it comes to these people who actually probably shouldn't even be getting your time and energy, you're giving them more because you have that fear of that uncomfortable interaction of what it's going to be like if you actually exercise your boundaries. Yeah. And I'm fucking like, yeah, that's a hard thing to do, dude. It's a hard thing to do. So like, good on you for being able to do that, man.
I mean, you know what? At the end of the day, it's like, I think I'm still always going to try to give somebody the benefit of the doubt.
Of course.
I'm always going to try to give them grace. But more and more now, I'm just learning like I know what like tendencies or traits people will typically have if I know that you're not really wanting to be my friend.
Yeah.
Right. So understanding those things, and again, it's like even learning that about myself, like, am I doing that to other people too? Like, I'm trying to make sure that like the people that I do really like, that I make an effort to let them know. Right. To show them that it's like I'm not just like, it's not just like I'm using you for whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it's also like I don't, unless I'm really comfortable with you, or like I actually value your opinion, I'm not gonna talk to you about like deep shit.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like this is our first time meeting.
Yeah.
But again, like I think because one, Wayne speaks very highly of you.
Wow. Appreciate that, Wayne.
Two, again, just seeing what you're doing and now hearing more about your story and like what your journey is, like I fuck with that.
Thank you, bro.
You know what I mean? Like there's an energy thing. You always feel when like if it's a little bit off.
Yeah.
And it's like this isn't gonna happen.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I think there's a lot of just, again, like it goes back to just you need to listen to yourself.
Yes.
You really need to just like what's going on in here when things happen to you, or like when you meet people, and like it's what's the word, cliche,
right,
that you have to trust your gut. You really fucking do.
Yeah.
You really fucking do.
100%. Like, what do you think is the reason why people ignore their gut?
I think a lot of it is just like running away from conflict. People naturally don't want to be in conflicting environments because they maybe not have those skills to deal with it. I think that's what it comes down to, because a lot of times, like I think especially with our upbringing, we go the path of least resistance in the sense that if I do these things and I avoid doing these things, I'm not going to get punished.
Exactly.
I'm not going to get yelled at.
Yeah.
But that doesn't teach you problem solving. That doesn't teach you the ability to confront someone and actually like say your piece and want to communicate things, right?
Yeah.
I've always said, like, and this is something that I learned from Wushu, is that if I don't care about you, I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah. True.
It's harsh, but it's at the same time, that's just how it is. I'm not gonna waste that time.
Yeah.
Right. But if I do, you'll hear from me.
Yeah.
Right. So I think a lot of people just need to. I say it's so simple. Just need to. There's a lot of work in just putting yourself in those situations, and even just saying one thing, even just one thing, that opens the door.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Saying like, I don't agree, right? Or I agree.
Exactly.
It just opens up that door for you to walk through, and then you start figuring out with, certain people, do I have that space to communicate openly, right? Because it's also too, if somebody decides to, if I give my opinion and somebody's so stubborn and hard-headed and they start berating me for my opinion, then I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I have nothing more to say to you.
Exactly.
It is what it is.
100%, man.
Right.
Yeah, I think it is that, and when you do things to avoid conflict, like you're not actually choosing your path. You're just avoiding one singular path.
Yes.
And then everything else is decided for you because you decided that this path of conflict is so bad, you'd rather have any other path than this, and so it's decided for you. Whereas like if you actually choose and say, I'm taking the path that is most honoring of myself.
Yeah.
And what I actually want and what I actually feel.
Yeah.
Then you're deliberately choosing your life. And I honestly think the outcome of your life will be a lot better if you deliberately choose something rather than avoiding anything, whether that's conflict or uncomfortable emotions or whatever that thing that you're avoiding is. Chase something instead.
Yeah.
Pursue something instead of avoiding something.
Yeah.
And
it also goes to show with like your upbringing in terms of like when you've grown up with a certain group of friends, right? And you let people get away with certain tendencies, or like you're like, oh, they're just like that.
Yeah.
They don't have to be just like that. You also don't have to be be that person's friend anymore. You are not obligated to maintain these relationships if they don't serve you.
100%.
Right. And I think that, you know, again, with just like servicing people or people pleasing, you fear that they're going to feel a certain type of way about you. But it's like, are you that close to them? Then why the fuck do you care?
Exactly.
You if you can admit to yourself that you don't actually really like this person, it's fine.
Yeah.
You don't have to like everyone. Not everyone needs to like you.
100%, dude.
Like, and I love what you said about like, you just need to pick. You need to choose.
Yeah.
You need to choose what works for you. You need to choose what your values are, your core values are, and you head in that direction. And you're gonna find your people, right? Maybe like this core group of people that you grew up with don't share that same sentiment.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because at the time that's what you needed. But now if you feel uncomfortable or you feel like this doesn't serve you anymore, there's an exhausting energy behind it, and you don't want to put yourself in that situation anymore, don't go do something else.
100%.
Right? Go be the truest version of you, and those people will come along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's 100% the truth. And like, anyone who's actually your friend wants the best for you.
100%.
If you advocating for yourself makes you lose any friendship or relationship, that relationship was never good for you in the first place.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
So it's better to like actually test those things and see it than to just avoid that thing, because you're never gonna know.
Yeah.
You know, and that's partly why like I have those conversations with my partner, because it's like, well, if we can't make it through this conversation, well, there's gonna be a lot harder things down the road. You know, we better start light on this conversation right now. You know,
and that's so admirable, because it's a hard thing to do.
Yeah,
it's so difficult. It's so difficult to say, like, to admit to each other that you're not perfect.
Yeah,
right. To be vulnerable that way, and again, for me, like, the hardest thing was saying anything. At the risk of making them feel bad.
Yeah.
Right. And then my ex always had, like, she shouldn't feel bad about it, but she always didn't want to make me feel bad.
Right.
So then it's like, she just needs to say what she says, and then it's okay, we can move on from it. It's like, no, but if you want to be mad, like, you can be mad. Exactly. Right. And it's so, and same thing with your friends. It's like, you have so much room to just be upset with people if you want.
100%.
Like, you shouldn't ignore that. You shouldn't. Dude, you don't owe anybody, like, if people are uncomfortable with it, that's a them problem. Yeah. That's shit that they have to, like, admit to, and like, well, why are you uncomfortable with it? Why does it, you know? And yeah, just seen so much of that in the last like, year and a half.
Like, friends are allowed to have, like, friends should be able to have hard conversations. Adults are capable of being disappointed. Like, it's okay to disappoint an adult. They can handle it. Oh man, you know, like, even like, I had a recent conversation with my partner where, like, literally I just told her, I was like, I can be frustrated with you and love you at the same time. Yeah. Like, I'm frustrated, but I love you, and we're okay. Like, our relationship's not in jeopardy. I'm frustrated though, and that's okay. Like, we're allowed to have the full gamut of emotions, and I think we just, like, we label these emotions as like, this means this is bad. This means that, like, something is wrong. When really it's just like, you're a fucking human, man. Like, you're gonna feel everything, and that's the whole point.
And it's like, when you come into it too, and the ability for you to offer that. Yeah. And offer that as I'm frustrated, but I still love you. It's like, I want to talk these things because I love you. Yeah. It's exactly. Like, again, it's like, if I don't say anything, I probably don't really love you. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, there's obviously a lot of things that go into that, because it's like, there's like a lot of fear behind that sometimes, and until you're ready to be comfortable doing that, it gets really hard. Yeah. Right. But the fact that you want to share those things, because it's like, for the sake of our relationship, if I don't say these things, it could go south.
Exactly. And I know that it would, because I've been in enough relationships and situations like that where it's like, that was also my thing that I had to work through. Yeah. Like, not wanting to upset my partner. Yeah. Maybe not for the same reason. Like, obviously I don't want to see my partner sad or whatever, but also it was because, like, I'm afraid they're going to blow up. I'm afraid they're going to, like, explode and be angry. And I'd rather just, like, have peace.
Yeah.
You know, but again, like I said, when you prioritize peace with someone else, you're at conflict with yourself.
Yeah.
And that's not a long-term strategy for anything.
No.
But like, man, this is like something that's been on my mind a lot lately because obviously, you know, I'm getting older. And like I said, my relationship with my father has improved a lot. But honestly, I think there's still room for improvement. There's still more that I can do. And like, yeah, this is just something that's weighed heavy on my mind and in my conversations recently where like mortality, the mortality of my parents and like, you know, you being vulnerable and sharing, you know, your father's passing. Like for me, I already like when you mentioned that, I felt this visceral thing of like, oh shit, that's something that I have like a deep fear of.
Yeah.
And like, so I don't know, like, is there anything that you can share about that experience, like, of losing your father and like what that was like for you and how you moved through that and maybe like your perspective on the mortality of our parents? Like,
I think the mortality of our parents is the same as the mortality of anybody else, is that it can be,
yeah,
life is, you never know what to expect. I think with my dad, so my dad and I never had a great relationship.
Right.
We bonded over certain things, like basketball was one of those things that we really connected on.
Yeah.
He loved cars. I was not a big car person, but I could appreciate certain things.
Yeah.
Like, those are the things that we kind of connected on. And, you know, I remember when I was still in high school and, you know, one day I just like asked him to go with me to shoot around at like Mount Royal, and I actually really enjoyed it because it's like, oh, I got to spend time with my dad.
100.
He was always busy working. Him and my mom were always busy, very busy working. So we didn't have time to cultivate an actual relationship.
Right.
But do I remember key moments? Absolutely. A lot of them were him yelling at me.
Yeah, fuck, man.
But it's funny, I say that and it's like, why do I remember? Because they were lessons I needed to learn. There were things that I agreed with, and they stick with me, right? And also just knowing him as a person. I didn't know him personally enough.
Yeah.
But I knew who he was based off of the way that his coworkers treated him. Based off of the way that I saw him when we would go to restaurants and he knew people and how kind he was. And I that's honestly, like, I try to emulate my dad in that manner.
Right.
Just the kindness that he is willing to offer people. And unfortunately, we didn't have a great relationship. And when he passed away, it was weird because I felt like I wasn't, like, I was sad, but I didn't like, it felt like I wasn't feeling the right emotions.
Right.
And then I remember one night I went to sleep and I was like dreaming and I saw him.
Wow.
This shit is crazy, man. Like, the spiritual part of that, because like I saw him, I ran to him, we hugged, and I woke up in tears.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, my mom that next morning also said that she saw my dad in her dreams. And I was just like, yo, it's just crazy,
It's
bro.
crazy, bro.
And the one thing that I will say with what I regret, because after my dad passed away, my brother and I, well, my brother was already in Vancouver. I moved out 5 years ago, and after his passing, my bakfu, so my his older brother, he told us, he started recounting stories of like him being on the phone with my dad, and my dad always asking, oh, like, I don't know how to connect with them, I don't know how to talk with them, and, you know, I don't know what I should do, all these things. And I felt so terrible, because that means that he was really trying.
Yeah.
Anytime that he tried to reach out, he was really trying to make an effort, and I didn't see that. I just thought he was being annoying.
Right.
And like, because again, like, he wasn't really around that much. So then some of the things that he was trying to teach me, it's like, well, I already learned those things, or somebody else said that to me already.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear this again. You know what I mean? But when my bafu told me that, oh, bro, I felt so shitty.
Yeah.
because then it's just like, wow, he really was trying to meet me halfway, and I didn't at all. And that was so frustrating.
Yeah.
To the point where now is that I'll like, now I try to talk to my mom more, and I try to really build that relationship. I took her to the gym yesterday.
I love that.
Because I was just trying to teach her things, and she's asked me before, but I've always been like, busy.
Right.
So then it was a great experience because I had that moment with her, and I was able to teach her things, and like we were just able to talk. And I have a much better relationship with my mom now because we are able to talk about a lot of things. And I can give her my opinions on things. I can ask her advice. She was very communicative when she found out that I broke up with my ex.
Yeah.
And she's very supportive that way. And like going back to your question with like mortality, I think everybody's fighting their own battles. Everybody is going through their own shit. Our parents as well. And we don't know how much like a little gesture for them will go, or how far that will go for them. And so I understand why people, will choose their parents and choose to hang out with their parents on their weekends and just like spend all that time with them, because our lives get busy.
Yeah.
And I think you really don't know what's going to happen. Like there was one year my mom slipped, broke her wrist, and I'm just like, what the fuck? We didn't know. And she didn't tell us.
Wow.
We didn't find out until we called her, or I think either we called her or we flew her out here, and then we're like, what is on your wrist?
Yeah.
And she had a splint, and I'm just like, why didn't you tell us? And like, there's so many unplanned things, right? Not even with just your parents. Like I had one of my other students passed away because he had a blood clot in his foot after getting surgery.
Oh no.
And it was a surgery that is like wildly successful. Is that a very small risk? Yes, it is. And it happened.
Yeah.
So, man, when it comes to mortality, I think whatever it is that you can do, if you can make time to, break those barriers down, just spend some more time, ask them questions, make them feel loved, make them feel, ultimately at the end of the day, everyone wants to feel loved. Everybody wants to feel, this is what I've realized is that when my mom tries to get involved in my life, she raised me. For a long time, I needed her. She wants to feel needed.
Yeah.
Our parents want to feel needed, right? As strong as tough as they are, why do you think that whenever you go back home, they're so excited to see you? They'll cut fruit for you.
Yeah.
They'll do these things, all these little gestures. It's not because it's just the thing that we do. No, they want to feel needed. They want to love you. They want to give you those things. As much as they don't say it, those are the actions. Those are the things that they want to do for you. And I think that as independent as we do become, we need to allow our parents to be our parents sometimes.
Yes.
And give them that opportunity to do things for us. And don't take advantage of it, obviously.
Of course.
But it's to be in their lives so that they can feel like they're needed. Right? Don't necessarily make them do shit for you. That's not what I'm saying.
No, I know exactly what you're saying. Man.
But be involved enough, or like create opportunities for them to be involved in your life.
Yeah. 100%.
Because I think ultimately that's also what they want.
It's huge, and you're gonna get a lot from that too, right? Just like having those other interactions.
Absolutely.
And like that's probably why, like, when you say that your mom didn't tell you about the splint, like I'm like, my mom would probably be the same
exactly.
way. Like
they don't want you to worry, and
they don't want you to worry. They want to be the one helping you. It's hard for them to receive anything. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like thank you for sharing that, man. Like your experience and your willingness to be vulnerable is like so powerful, and I've taken a lot from what you said. And mortality in general, I think, is maybe even a more powerful way to look at it, like you suggested, where it's like, even our lives, we're gonna die. So what are we doing to spend in our lives, like actually doing and spending time doing, that's why, I admire you for going and moving to Vancouver and chasing your dream, because who knows what's gonna happen. You might die.
Yeah.
Like, what if you died at a desk job that you hated? Like, how terrible would that be?
Yeah, totally. 100%.
Yeah.
It's just doing things for yourself again. It's like, and I think that like when we go back, like going back to talking about how I'm able to continue to choose that voice of like these are the things, this is what I want to do. I think it's literally, for me, it's that simple. It can't be that simple for everyone I know, but for me, it's literally, well, I just want to do that thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's stopping me?
Yeah.
Literally nothing.
I love that about you, man. That's awesome.
Literally nothing.
Yeah.
And I think that you learn along the way whether or not that thing is meant for you too. And it's just, you just got to try a bunch of shit.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, it's like, it's going to get hard. Then there's another lesson for you to learn.
Yeah.
How bad do I want it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Do I want it so bad that I'm willing to overcome this hardship and this difficult time and keep working towards that dream? Right? And I think that a lot of people just need to have some time to themselves and be honest with themselves. And like, again, like I will always say too, that if whatever you decide to choose in life to do, that is your choice and you should be happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're unhappy, maybe there's something to address there.
Just make another choice.
Just make another choice.
You
right?
know?
Just ask, why am I unhappy? Do you hate your job? Okay, maybe I get another job then.
Exactly,
you know?
exactly.
Or maybe I explore something else. You know, I think that there's a lot of we want to be overly prepared.
Mm-hmm.
You can't.
Yes.
You can't.
Yeah.
Shit's gonna happen. Things are gonna happen. Life is gonna go south at some point, and you're really just gonna have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what's gonna make you stronger. Those are the lessons that are gonna be taught to you.
Yeah.
I oftentimes, like, I've realized now that it doesn't matter what people say to me in terms of like we were talking about before. You can tell me your experience, and like I can learn from it. I can take that perspective. But sometimes if I haven't had that experience myself,
Exactly, dude.
I don't know. Is it really that bad?
Yeah, exactly.
This is the one thing I'm like very curious what it's like to date a Korean girl, because all my friends like, yo, like real talk, I'm gonna put that out there right now.
I love that, dude.
People keep telling me that like Korean girls are crazy. I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
It's like, no, don't do it. It's like, bro, like but I kind of want to know. Like, I'm so curious. You know what I'm saying?
There's no way that all Korean girls are crazy.
That's what I'm saying, bro. There's no way. So I'm just so curious. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and again, it's people have their traumas. People want to share. And this is where I think when it comes back to like me wanting to help people, you wanting to help your friends.
Yeah.
Right. You see the difficulties that they're kind of going through, and you want to help them so that they can feel better. But they just need to go through it.
Exactly.
And all you can do is be supportive, be there, offer your perspective if it's warranted, if that's what's wanted. Mm-hmm. That's another thing too, man. When realizing that on the other side of that, sometimes I don't want an opinion.
Yeah.
That's not what I need.
It's true.
Right. And it's like, as a person too, there's times where you just want to talk about things and somebody offers you unsolicited advice and you're just like, bro, go over there. Like,
Exactly.
like,
I wasn't even asking you, bro.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, did I ask?
Yeah.
And shit like that's okay too. It's like it's okay to tell people that, like, and to set that boundary. It's like, I'm not looking for advice right now.
Yeah.
I'm literally I just need a vent. I need to just complain. Mm-hmm. Right? I don't need you to fix my problem for me.
Yeah.
Because I know that I have to go through it. I also have to be the one to fix it.
Yes.
Right? But if I'm having trouble in coming up with a solution, maybe I'll come to you for perspective that may offer me something different.
Yeah. It goes back to like people got to be starving for it. They got to come and ask you, and that's where they're going to be most ready to receive it, rather than you just like, again, giving them unsolicited advice.
Yeah. It's the worst.
Yeah.
I've done that a lot.
I don't want to get your parking.
What time is it? Oh, shoot. Yeah. What were we talking about?
Fuck, it doesn't matter.
A new topic.
Yeah.
How, so how, what spurred the podcast?
Whew. Yeah. I don't know. I think I've just gotten so much from podcasts that like I've just always been curious and like it's kind of like you, like I just want to do this. There was a lot of things that were stopping me from doing it.
Like what?
Just fear. Like actually my first episode of the podcast, I recorded 2 years before I released it.
No way.
Yeah. So like, cause I recorded the podcast and I was like, this sucks. This is the shittiest podcast ever.
Yeah.
And so I just sat on it, and then I don't know what it was. This one day I was just like cleaning up my laptop, and I saw it again. And I was like, huh. I started listening to it, and I was like, oh, this is a cool tidbit out of it. Yeah. Let me just post a clip. And then I posted the clip, and I got a bunch of love for the clip. They were just like, oh, this is awesome. Oh, I love that you're doing this. And I was like, huh. And then so the people who said, like, I love that you're doing this, I just invited them on. I was like, oh, yeah, thanks. Would you want to come and talk on camera?
Yeah.
And then it just, like, kind of snowballed into this thing. And, yeah, like, it's a part of my journey. And, like we said, well, like we were talking about earlier, I think a lot of my journey is just becoming who I needed when I was a kid.
Right.
And so, like, a part of that is, like, giving myself permission, and in giving myself permission to talk about, like, these vulnerable topics and having these conversations with people is giving other people permission. Like, you know, the post that you saw with Wayne was, like, my first post to ever, like, get a lot of views, you know? And so the comments on it were just like, look at, like, it was just people like, I want to talk to my parents about this. Oh, I want to talk to this person about this. And I've been avoiding conflict for this long, and whatever it was. And I was like, wow, this is impactful. I was like, people are having conversations because of this. Like, people are talking to their mom and dad about something because of this. And it became a little bit more powerful than just like, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And so, like, that was... And so now as I'm just, like, allowing it to be whatever it's going to be. Like, at first I had this idea of, like, I have to talk to this kind of person. These are the kind of conversations I'm going to have. I prepped for them. I had, like, a notebook with my questions in it. And I would, like, look on the internet about, like, these people and try to ask these certain kinds of questions. And now it's just conversations. And that was the first one that me and Wayne, because it was completely random. He literally just hit me up and was like, yo, your podcast is cool, man.
Yeah.
Keep doing it.
Yeah.
And then, like, I was like, oh, dude, thanks, man. Like, we should meet up.
Yeah.
And
Wayne's
then,
a real one, man.
Yeah.
He's a real
100%.
one.
A great guy. And then he came over and he was just like, immediately, I was vibing with him. Because actually, Wayne, I've met him in passing, but I've never had a conversation with him. So it was like, oh, hey, I'm Wayne. Oh, hey, I'm Nick. Oh, what's up? Yeah, okay, peace. Type thing, you know? And then when we were having this conversation, like, upstairs, and we were just, like, having some water and just talking, I was like, hey, man, you want to record this
on the podcast? Yeah.
And he was like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's what switched it for me. I was like, okay, I'm not going to prep any questions. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to have real conversations with real people.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even matter what kind of person they are, as long as they're willing to be vulnerable or, like, vibe
Absolutely.
on a certain level. So yeah, that's what spurred it, man. And even me going into martial arts is that too, is being the person I needed when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like, there's, like, two memories I have where, like, one was, you know, my brother was being bullied. And then I was standing there, and I'm his younger brother, but I was still pissed off about it, and I wanted to do something about it. And then, so, like, as a kid at that time, I just punched this guy way older than me. I punched him in the stomach, and then he looked at me and he laughed. And I felt so weak, and I was like, oh, I can't defend the people I care about. And even, like, I'd be walking around with my mother, like, you know, she'd take care of us. And, like, I remember there's this day I remember vividly. There was this person on the street catcalling my mom while we were together, and, like, just being extremely disrespectful.
Yeah.
This gigantic adult, and I felt, like, so helpless, but I wanted to defend her.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to be able to do something in this fucking situation. That's why I love Bruce Lee so much, because, you know, he was the only example I saw on TV where he's just like beating people up.
Yeah.
So then I was like, if there's ever a situation, I don't want to feel powerless ever again. And so that's my entire persona now. The person I'm becoming is just the person I needed, or I felt that I needed when I was a kid.
Man, I love that so much.
Yeah,
like, you said that multiple times, but it's like, it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It does make so much sense that it's you're becoming who you needed most to feel safe and feel protected, and that's fucking dope.
Yeah, because like it's better
Amazing,
than
dude.
blaming your parents all the time.
Yo, for real though.
You know?
That's man, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so with where, what do I want to ask? There's something that I think, because like you've been saying that you've gone to like videography and obviously your life is taking a more creative path.
Yeah.
Where would you like that to go?
That's a good question, bro. If I'm really honest, if I was like saying my most selfish dream, it would be the podcast that blows up more than the videography or like the marketing agency I'm starting. Because I'm doing that because obviously there's a level of practicality that I still need in my life that I
Right.
feel like, you know, I need to make money. And this is like a part of my gift at this point. I feel like part of my gift is videography, even though I've pretty recently started that.
Yeah.
Like, I just love it, man. I actually genuinely love it. Like, I wake up and I want to edit. I go to sleep and I'm like, I should go to sleep. It's 2 a.m., but I just want to edit. Like, it's just, it's like, it's become this passion for me that, like, I think, yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But if I'm really honest, like, that's just a way to feed this.
This is the passion.
This is the passion.
Connecting and
like,
learning, yeah.
The connecting with the people, like, if I didn't do this, I never would have met you, bro, and we never would have had this conversation.
Yeah,
and like, to me,
true.
that is so valuable.
Yeah.
Because now, like, even moving forward in life, like, I'm excited to see the things that you're doing, and especially
Thank you,
seeing
man.
your character.
Thank
like,
you.
I know, I have such deep confidence that you're gonna do something.
Thank you, man.
Like, and then how valuable is that I get to, like, you know, like, help support you in any way that I can in that.
Yeah.
And like, I just love witnessing greatness, man, and people willing to chase greatness, and like, what other mode of anything would I have to do that? You know, other than this, like,
Yeah.
if I never did this, like I said, we wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
And I'm getting so much out of this more than just content.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, totally.
Yeah.
I do also want to say that, like, I think that I'm excited for where this goes for you.
Yeah.
Because again, it's the way that you've complimented me. Like, what I want to offer you back is the fact that it has been so easy to be comfortable talking to you.
Wow, thanks, man.
I feel like you create a very safe, like, non-judgmental environment, and it makes it easy for people
Yeah.
to be vulnerable, right? I think that when people, and it's like you said, it's just so serendipitous that with somebody like Wayne too. Wayne is such a man. Like, I love Wayne so much.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
For him to just hit you up, right, and love what you're doing, and then you reciprocate with, yo, let's kick it, let's hang out, right, and then for it to turn into something like this, I think that generosity, that kindness, and that want to just, like, be kind to each other, right, and get to know each other, that genuine curiosity, and to learn about people's experiences, because again, it's like, yeah, through other people's experiences, you have a little bit more perspective.
Right.
You're still gonna have to go through those experiences.
Exactly.
But it's so nice to hear, and I think that likewise with when that clip blew up with you and Wayne talking about, like, your relationship with your parents and how, like, you're working to communicate with them, or what are the things that held you back from being able to do those things. When people hear it, it just breeds this, like, safe environment to say, oh shit, there's other people that are experiencing the same thing that I'm experiencing, and that's so powerful. Because now you're giving them the freedom, or you're giving them the permission to go do what they need to do. Right. And even then, with, like, what I would like to do with, like, my social media platform right now, because I'm in heavy, like, just trying to rebuild and trying to figure out how I want to market myself. The main thing that I want to do is preserve Cantonese as a language.
I love that.
That to me, I don't know why, but I just love it so much.
Yeah.
And I've connected to it so much that I hope that I can do that for other people as well. So what's interesting is that, like, and actually, let me ask your opinion. How do you feel about, like, some of the Asian content that has been coming out in terms of like film and television?
It's hard to say. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't consumed a whole lot of it. There's certain ones that really stand out to me that were extremely powerful.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they really centered around Asianness so much as it was just human stories. Like, for example, I really loved Beef. Like, I really loved that series. I made a video about it, and that's like currently going crazy right now.
Yeah.
And then I really loved Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
Which was incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's your opinion on that? Like,
I feel like we're getting too many of the same stories. Beef was very different.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's done and doing well.
Right.
Everything Everywhere All at Once was a similar story about generational trauma, but told from a very unique perspective.
Right.
And ultimately, it was like this story of, this daughter who travels the multiverse in order to find a mother that understands her. That was what was so unique about it, and that was what's so touching about it. Right. Beyond the generational trauma thing. I think that, and this is where like content for me in terms of like Asian content, I think we've seen enough of that.
Yeah.
Not to say that it's not important, right? I don't think that it's necessarily like it's not a story that we need to continue to tell.
Yeah.
But again, it's like it's the same story that we've been telling for however many years.
Right.
But that's not all we are. That's not all our experiences are.
Yes.
Right. Because like in particular with like the education thing and like whatever, I didn't have that.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of times like I don't relate to these stories, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I was very lucky that my upbringing was very different.
Yeah.
In that sense, I was allowed to just go pursue whatever it is I wanted to pursue.
Right.
Because my parents were very cool with me doing what I wanted to do as long as I wasn't getting in trouble.
I love that.
Right. And then I think another thing that I would love to see is like I talked to Yin about this as well, and like we both think that what would be great is hearing a bit more about the immigrant story and then and them coming over and like seeing that, like doing more period shows where we get to see what that was like, right? My parents met at a like nightclub lounge thing because my mom was a singer. Yeah. Like she was a lounge singer. She was flown from Hong Kong to like I don't remember where it was. Like probably like right outside of Toronto or whatever. But that's how they met. And that's a whole life that I don't know about. Yeah, totally. Like, that's an experience that I'm never gonna know about. Right. Until we start asking those questions and we start putting that out there, and then it's like, then you kind of get an understanding of like your parents used to be like this. Yes. They were young once too. They were figuring it out. They were going through their own process and their journey and their trauma, and that's why you got what you got. I love that so fucking much, bro. Right. I think that's a story that needs to be told. Yeah. And you're 100% right that it's missing. Yeah. From the current stuff that we're seeing, because these films are made by second generation or like whatever, you know what I mean? Like the children of immigrants rather than the immigrants themselves. Yeah. So I think that would be such a powerful story to tell. Like, yeah, because it allows us to have empathy for our parents and put ourselves in their shoes. Yeah. And also I even think about how powerful would it be to like play a role where you have to completely engulf yourself and empathize with that generation. Yeah. Like how healing would that be? Yeah. That's awesome. So that's where like I feel like obviously there's so many things that go into, something like film and television and what our limitations are just because of what networks are willing to approve. Yeah. Right. But in that same vein of things, like with, indie filmmakers and what we're able to kind of accomplish on our own now, be as content creators online and whatever, I feel like you want to bridge that gap. That's the way to bridge that gap. Yeah. Right. And it's do we want to be the ones to break that cycle or do we want to contribute to it? Yeah. Right. Man, I love that. Because I love that you brought that up because I wanted to ask you like,
what kind of stories you want to tell through your art. But like, I guess what attracted you to acting in the first place?
Nothing in particular, honestly. Like, I think so I started Wushu because of Jet Li.
Awesome.
And, you know, growing up watching Jet Li, Jackie, Donnie, Bruce, like, Wu Jing is another. That solidified me in martial arts, and like, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to do that thing. I like look super fucking cool doing that. And then acting, it actually just got to a point, so I never went back to university, right? So I never went, mostly because I didn't know what I wanted to do, what I wanted to study, where I wanted to go with that. And I'm very lucky, I guess, in that sense, that I knew that about myself.
Yeah.
So I didn't waste time. Not that it's wasted time. You have an experience either way. But again, there's just nothing I was interested in, and I didn't do it. So that I had a lot of time into just doing other jobs, and I was personal training for a bit, and then and then I could solely focus on training and getting better at Wushu, which was honestly a great decision, because it brought me to a place. It brought me to the highest level of what Wushu was, competing for Team Canada and seeing other teams.
That's awesome.
Right. And I got to a point where I was like, I'm kind of done competing.
Yeah.
But I don't know what to do. I don't know if I'm going, like, should I just keep teaching?
Yeah.
Because at the time I was just working whatever full-time job, and then I could teach Wushu with my sifu, and it was okay because he was also like paying me at the time too. So then, you know, like, and my sifu and simo like had so much love for me. They tried to really kind of take care of me.
Yeah. And
they were actually also very supportive of me pursuing acting.
Yeah.
Because they understood, like, and this is where I admire and respect them, because they also made a choice to immigrate here and to start school.
Yeah.
And the things that they had to go through in order to make that come to fruition, I think that's why they were okay with like sending me off and being like, yeah, go do your thing. Because they knew that I had to go follow that dream, because they had a dream.
Yeah.
Right. So I admire and respect them like so much for that. So acting came about because I was just lost, and I was just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where I'm going to go next. And I think I started having a little bit of curiosity into it. I tried vlogging at one point in Calgary, and it just wasn't good. Just didn't like I was just like, who the fuck is gonna like, I'm no one, like, why would anybody want to listen to me, and like whatever, right? I didn't have an angle,
right?
So but eventually it was like, okay, well, what could I do that allows me to continue to perform, potentially with martial arts as well? Because I think what I realized, my cousin was the one that actually told me or said to me, so when you're thinking about your career, don't think about what you like to do, but think about what you're good at.
Right.
Because if you're good at it, typically you like it.
Yeah, of course. We like to be good at things.
Yeah. So, and I was, okay, well, I'm good at performing. Never tried acting before, but I enjoy performing. And doing Wushu, you're used to performing live in front of people all the time too. So I already had that experience. I wasn't scared to put myself in that position. And I moved to Vancouver, went to Vancouver Film School. That's where my journey started. And honestly, like, the more that I learned about it, the more I continue to learn about it. It's just so much fun.
I love
it's
that.
It's just so much fun. And I think a lot of it is just really, really wanting to see myself on screen like Jet Li did, and like I saw Jet Li, Jackie, and, you know, inspiring, hopefully, and influencing people to live their lives to the fullest extent that they could. Yeah. You know, and having that, just potentially having that influence on people. But a lot of it is just like, now with acting, I just love it. It's taught me a lot about myself. Yeah.
I love that, man. That's so awesome. Like, so how did you get your foothold into this? Because like, it seems like such a hard industry to like navigate or even get your foot into. But like, you worked with some pretty cool projects, some pretty cool people. Like, how did you even get there?
Stroke of luck, I don't know, man. I think maybe right place, right time. I also say that I'm very lucky with the people that I've met, and everybody has been so kind and so welcoming, and they've introduced me to people, and I would like to think that, or they've put me in things, and I'd like to think that I put out good work. So then, because I put out good work, people want to explore something else with me, and I'm like, oh, great, that's awesome, right? And a lot of it, I would say is because of the people that are around me, and the people that I've been introduced to, and just their generosity, like Ken and Megan as well. They're just so generous with their time, and also helping me with like stunt training and stuff like that, and always doing projects together. And then do you know Osric Chow?
No.
So Osric is a actor, filmmaker, director. Cool. He wears many hats. He's done a lot of things. He also used to do Wushu, him and his brother.
Okay, nice.
And we are all now in film together, which is amazing. But Osric has had a very, very successful career thus far, and he's continuing to grow as a filmmaker and do a bunch of things. He is somebody that is so about the community and so about like offering his knowledge. Anytime I actually have a question, he will like, he has blurbs, like long ass paragraphs and things to say. He's so kind and generous with what he has learned that I think, again, it's like I can't pinpoint anything in particular aside from the people. I've just been in the right place at the right time, and they've been very helpful, and they've been very just kind to me. And that's also what makes me want to like reciprocate that back, you know, and just make sure that I'm the best version of myself to offer them, you know, help in whatever capacity, shape, or form. Right. And like even with stunts, it's the people, man.
But like, how did you even meet them? Was it from your Wushu background that you met them, or
I mean, it all started with, so I think Ken and I followed each other on Instagram.
Okay.
Because I saw some of the stuff that him and some of the stunt guys were doing out in Vancouver, and I was like, yo, this is fucking crazy. And then like that's kind of how we started connecting, and then we eventually met in person. And he was I think one of the big deciding factors in me landing on that first stunt job in like Avatar. And him and Megan anyways, and then also Alan Tang from Toronto as well, because he was the other Wushu consultant, and he knew the coordinator. So I think that had a big effect as well. And but yeah, just a lot of being in the right place, right time, and then meeting them at like stunt training gyms and stuff like that, and trying to build and cultivate a relationship. And just offering what I had to offer them as well, right? And just knowing that like, this is what I have to offer, like you can take it or leave it. You know, like I hope you take it, like maybe I can, like for me it was just teaching people Wushu. And it was me being able to offer that to people. Like I'm not precious with that knowledge and information in the sense that I hold it to myself. No, because it's like, if you like it, if you want to learn it, I'm just going to teach it to you. I don't really care. Right. This is my mentality on like a lot of things, is that there's I lose nothing by offering information to you and experience to you. Right. I think from a competitive athlete standpoint as well, I still lose nothing, because I can give it to you, but what you decide to do with that is on you. Whether or not you decide to put in the work to actually work on those things and get better, improve, and actually like be better than me, that's on you. Right. I know how hard I'm gonna work. I know what effort I'm gonna put in, and I just live with that. Right. But it's like, if we can share and build a relationship because we have this mutual thing that we're both interested in, why not? 100%. You know, you seem cool. I seem like, I like to open up and just make friends, and it is what it is. So yeah, man, it's hard. Like, it's so hard to say like how, I don't know, man. It just like, I just met people, and people started introducing me to people, and I'm very thankful. I'm very grateful that happened.
Well, like,
very lucky.
But also when I hear that, it really began with a simple like act of kindness and showing genuine love and appreciation for somebody else's work. Like just being like, hey, what you're doing is awesome. Like, just being kind, bro. Like, is like,
It
put you in
goes-
that position to win.
Bro, it goes such a long way.
Yeah.
It goes such a long
Yeah.
way.
And I love, like, that perspective, man, of, like, just an abundance mindset where, like, somebody else having something doesn't take away from what you have.
Absolutely.
So you can share that. Like, the best metaphor I can think of is, like, if you have a candle and you use that candle to light another candle, the candle that you lit that candle with doesn't get any smaller.
Yeah.
There's just more light now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's
So,
amazing.
yeah, I love it, man. I love it. But, like, other than the immigrant story, is there any other stories that you're wanting to tell? Because actually, like, I've been able to tune into a couple of your shorts. I love them. I love that you mix
Thank
martial
you.
arts into them.
Yeah.
Because I'm a huge martial arts fan myself, so I love that it's weaved in there.
Yeah.
But is there any other stories that you're like really wanting to tell?
I think things that I wanna tell all stem from just your relationships with people. Because at the root of it, like, I go back often to certain movies that, like, even Jet Li did because of my emotional connection to it. Not because of, like, yes, because of the action, but because of how it made me feel, right? The same way with how, like, the Ip Man series for Donnie has taken off, and, like, I don't know if you watched all of them or not. That second one, bro, where he was, like, fighting the boxer, the white guy.
Yep.
The amount of pride that I felt when he, like, whooped his ass, or when he finally won, bro, I cried.
Fuck yeah.
Cause it's like, and it's you know, when you're connected to the culture and you see your people fight against adversity, and to overcome that and, like, you know, be the winners. That, I think that's huge, right? And I think with what I would want to do with the things that I create is just offer people a safety zone to start listening to their own feelings and start looking at their own relationships and asking themselves those questions of, like, am I doing that? Am I like that? Right? In my everyday life, am I going through that same thing? Or do I know people going through that same thing? Or when it happens, oh shit, this is what's happening. And just to be able to comfortably address it. Right? I think that's the one thing that I really want to do with film and you know, maybe series, is to just offer people, like, what's the word that I want to use? Kind of like a sanctuary to be able to explore their own feelings.
Yeah.
To be able to recognize it and be like, and have a conversation with themselves. I think that's the one thing.
I love that, man. I think that's what all great art does.
And it should.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I mean, there's a long road ahead to being able to get there, because I think with my writing too, it's just having it reflect that. Writing is hard, man.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so hard.
Yeah.
But it is really fun too. It is really fun too. And I think that even with, like, I'm writing a short film right now that talks about what I was kind of going through with my breakup.
I love that.
Or leading up to it, and how I got to that decision. And I had a friend talk to me about it and say that I think there's a risk or a potential of you looking like the bad guy in all of this. And I'm like, I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Because that's just the truth of it. Right? Because I'm not planning to sell it or anything like that. The main thing that I want to do is just to tell an honest story, and, like, for the people that are going through it, both on the partner side and the side where they are me, for them to recognize that that's happening for themselves, or if they've been through that, and to just be able to talk to themselves and just have that dialogue early. You know what I mean? Because we don't know. I don't know who it's going to affect. I don't know who's going to get triggered by it, whatever. I'm not doing it to trigger anyone. I'm just telling a story, and if you get triggered by it, maybe there's something to address there.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly, man. Yeah, at the end of the day, we're all a villain in someone's story if you're being true to yourself.
Yeah.
But, man, like, fuck, I appreciate you, man. This has been an incredible conversation.
Likewise, bro.
I typically like to end off all my podcasts the same way because, like I said, I do this for a past version of myself. So you know, if you have anything that like maybe you could share with the audience or somebody who might really relate to your story, or maybe even just a past version of yourself, do you have anything that you would want to share with them, or any advice or anything like that?
I think, there's so much. we covered a lot of it, I think, in our talk. But did. I think if one thing I would say is just to listen to yourself. There is whether or not it becomes a wrong choice. I don't think it's ever going to be a wrong choice because it's going to be right for you.
Yeah.
You just have to listen to what you're feeling and be honest with yourself. Full transparency, because if you can't be fully transparent with yourself, you're going to have a very, very difficult time building relationships with anyone else. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bro, thank you so much, man.
Thank you, man.
I'm so stoked we got to meet, bro. I took so much from this conversation, and I just appreciate
Likewise.
you so much, man.
Likewise.
I can't wait to see what you get up to next, man.
Thank you. And honestly, like, same way. I can't wait to see this podcast grow, man. Doing great things.
Appreciate it, brother. All right.
Peace.
Peace.